Black Ibis Social Club. Another great day. Hey, we got Fisto back today after taking a week off.
Yo,
What's up, man? And
what's
today
up?
today is it's gonna be one of those episodes that I actually look forward to. We decide to do this maybe once a month or once every 2 months. It's gonna be the solo episodes, right? So it's just me and Fisto getting to catch up on stuff.
Yeah,
And
man.
I always look up like before we record a podcast, I always like look up like so you know what's what's going on today? Is today a special day? Because we did last time we did a solo episode, it was the Ides of March, right? We did it because
Right.
it was the Ides of March. Well, guess what today is? Today is Walpurgis night, is Beltane, is the witches' night.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so
That's
uh,
exciting.
so just for people not that don't know anything, right? The festival of Walpurga, or Saint Walpurga. She was a saint, an English saint that went to Germany, and she basically converted like witches and pagans and heathens and shit uh, in like the 8th century, and she's known for basically protecting against witchcraft and all kinds of crazy stuff, right? So it's Saint Walpurgis, right? And the holiday itself, it's really celebrated in like the Baltic countries, like the Czech Republic, Slovakia, Slovenia, the whole Central European, the Netherlands and stuff, right? And
Hmm.
it's tonight, and tomorrow's May Day, right? And which is the
Yes.
feast of Saint Walpurga, right? And it has all the Wickerman stuff. They do fires, and the idea is that tonight is the night when witches and demon worshippers and Satanists and stuff are at their strongest, right? It's where they have the most power. So we celebrate Saint
Oh,
Walpurga tonight because that's her strength is to protect you and to defeat witchcraft. So then that's what they
that
like.
explains why I've gotten so many retarded comments lately.
Right, because the retarded and the demonic are very similar in
Yeah.
nature, and
Yeah.
maybe retarded people are just demon possessed, but just by like weak ass demons that are too retarded. It's like they're like,
By retarded demons.
well, they're no, they're possessed by like the low level demons, like the Indian version of a demon that works in like the demon call center. So he's actually got like
Huh.
1,000 calls, so he doesn't
Oh
really have
boy.
time to devote time to it. So it just kind of retards a
Now
bunch
I
of.
wanna now I wanna rewrite a version of Screw Tape Letters, but it's a couple of demons talking in a call center.
That's funny, but yeah, that's what today is. Today is Walpurgis
Nice.
night, right?
Nice.
And there's fire. You're supposed to have a bonfire, and if you like Google it, it's got like all kinds of stuff, and it also comes to uh, where the number 777 is considered like holy because
Mm,
that is the year she was born. So that's supposed
wow.
to be like her number 777, to defeat demons and witches and stuff. I don't know. That's what tonight is. So it's kind of cool that we've managed to have two solo episodes on interesting nights.
Clearly, we're chosen by the saints and all the prophets to
Yeah,
do
uh,
our episodes when we do them.
it's true. And it's man, it has been a week or two for me. I like my
Yeah, what's
my
been
ent-
going on?
dude, my entire life is a dumpster fire for the last 2 weeks, 2 or 3 weeks, right? We had
Hmm.
sick dog that cost me thousands of dollars. Yeah, she's better now. And then my grandmother is in the hospital. She's old and has Alzheimer's, and she doesn't even know who she is anymore. So I got to fly out to California probably soon. My brothers are like, just hold off on it. There's nothing for you to do here. Then over the weekend, my father-in-law is sick and he's in the hospital, so my wife might have to fly out to help out them. Work is picking up and becoming insane, and we've lost like 50% of the staff, so I've been doing twice the work.
Mm.
And it's just like, oh, and then I got rear-ended
You got
yesterday.
rear-ended? Yeah,
Yeah,
really. This is news to me.
so because it wasn't that big a big deal at all. So I'm driving down the highway, and
Yeah.
I'm listening to like Red Scare podcast. That's probably why I got rear-ended. And boom, I get rear-ended. I'm like, oh, mother. God, fuck, right? Like I was like,
Yeah, right.
I didn't even
Bam.
care. I don't even care about the car. I was just like, I'm gonna have to deal with this, like this is another
Right.
thing on top of all the things I have to deal with, right? So I pulled over and I pulled over, the car pulls over and this woman gets out and she's a attractive 30 something year old woman. And I look at the back of my car and there's nothing, not even a scratch, not even a dent. And she's like, "Oh
Nice.
my God, I'm so sorry." And I was like, "No worries, man. I like, no, everything's cool. Like, you know, as long as everything's fine, I don't care. I'm just going to get back and go." Then she notices that we actually are driving the same exact car with the same exact color, right?
That's funny.
So there was no damage because I think the cars are built to like fit in next to each other and like like when they get transported and stuff.
Oh,
So they're
jeez.
just like it just fit like a Lego when she hit me. So it was like, oh, cool, nothing,
Yeah,
right?
that must be it. That must be it.
And I was like, thank God I did not need to deal with like the insurance thing and all that. So I was
Yeah.
like, done, done. But yeah, it's just been a week. I know you've been doing some exciting, positive, cool stuff, right? What have you been up to?
Yeah. My last week and a half has been pretty crazy. We had a bunch of debate stuff going on at school that has gone really well. Had a big event the other day where we had a bunch of kids come up and put on a debate competition in front of a large portion of the school. So that went over incredibly well. I got to be the master of ceremonies, so that was a good time, and essentially looked like a rock star. So that was a good time.
Nice.
Besides that, I've got the play that I've been in. We have our second group of stuff going on this weekend. Second set of shows going on this weekend, and then we'll wrap up that nice short community theater run. That's been a lot of fun. I've actually gotten some people to come see the theater who haven't done so in a while, and it's been a lot of fun because I've been starring opposite my wife. So that's been a very interesting experience. She's done theater a long, 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 long time, going back probably decades now, right, dear? Hey, we had a guest today.
Oh, there we go.
I don't know if you heard that, but yeah, about a decade and a half. So
That's awesome, man.
yeah, so she's the pro and I'm a total noob, but I guess I don't entirely suck all that much. So yeah, works out real well for everybody.
That
Beyond
stuff is
that,
cool, man.
yeah, beyond that, I'm getting near the end of the year. I'm trying to think of what I want to do this summer. As you guys know, I was on a episode with Konstantin von Hofmeister. He was kind enough to have me on his podcast with Arctos Journal. I may write an article for them this summer. I've gotten a couple of ideas. I actually wanted to hit the idea off you if we need time.
Oh,
We
sure.
need to figure out things to talk about. But I have an idea building on the last essay that I wrote about the American Imperium. And yeah, so that's kind of what's going on. But just getting to the end of the year and hoping they'll have me back next year, which looks like they probably will. So everything's fine.
That's awesome. I mean, it's pretty exciting to like get
Yeah.
get near the end of the school year. And I mean, do you keep the same students or do you get new ones every year?
New students every
Okay.
year. I've already met somebody. They had the eighth graders touring the high school earlier this month. And then we had an event where we had the eighth graders come. I didn't get to go because I had my show, but I had a guy basically handle the debate stuff, had a bunch of kids interested in that. And yeah, I'll get all new students next year. You'll like this too. I forgot to mention, I've been doing The Great Gatsby this weekend, next week.
Oh, nice.
So I took your advice, decided to say fuck the haters and bust out some F. Scott Fitzgerald.
It is the anniversary this year, I think, of the
Is
book.
it?
I think it's like the
It's a lot of fun for me because I haven't read this thing since high school, and man, it's so good. It's
right.
really just it
Oh,
is an interesting book. It
it's
is
a
an interesting
masterpiece.
snapshot into yeah, oh absolutely. It is a masterpiece in the same way that Animal Farm was, where
Hmm.
clearly Fitzgerald just poured his soul into the most pristine way possible and created this fantastic novel, just like how when Orwell sat down to like really think through his political view, it came out in just it's sculpture. It's not a book, it's sculpture,
How are
just
the
to the
kids taking
detail
it?
and
Do they
quality
like
of
it?
it. Um, I'll say this, my weaker reading classes, this is interesting. My weaker reading classes, there's like two of them. I'm probably getting about 50 to 60% really getting into it. I had to holler at some of the kids today just to be like, listen, Don't check out on me yet. We still got stuff to do before the end of the year. But my better reading classes get really into it. I've got a couple classes where like 95% of the kids are clearly into it. And I'm approaching it just like book club, just book club. They already have their English classes and talking about mechanics, and so I'm just like, whatever. I'm not going to try to do any of that shit. I'm just like, here's a cool book, read it, and then tell me what you think, and let's talk about it. And then, you know, we're 3 days in, we're into chapter 3. I've probably got about 60 to 70% of all my kids have actually read or at least attempted to read through all of it. And then the others, I think at least maybe 10 to 20% of that are coming around to the idea of, oh, Miss gave us something challenging in order to kick our ass. Because I had a few conversations today with kids where they were just like, what the heck is going on? Like, and it's just, yes, you're talking to me. Perfect. Let's dig into the text. Let's talk. So it's having an interesting effect. My ultimate goal is to, like I said, kick their ass with something and have them feeling confident in themselves by the time they get to this big reading test they have to take at the end of the year. For folks that don't know, in Florida, there's a series of tests, just like pretty much anywhere probably these days.
Yeah,
But one of them
California
is,
had them too when I was in high
yeah,
school.
one of them. I ended up graduating before all that stuff rolled out, so I consider myself very fortunate in that regard. But with this, if they pass the test, then they're done with it for the year, or they're done with it for the high school career. So I'm really hoping a lot of my kids will end up passing it, and then they never have to think about it again. Um, but my whole idea is just we're doing book club. Come on in, guys. We're doing this book. We're reading. We're talking. I'm asking some questions, but I'm very much trying to help them just explore the book. Just explore the book. There's
Yeah, I mean,
no test. There's no learning. It's just explore the book and have a good time. Love it, hate it, whatever, doesn't matter. I did have one kid though I'm really excited about. Him and I are having a good time because he said, "Oh my gosh, sir, I've been wanting to read this book my entire life." And I'm like, "Really?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm so excited." Literally jazzed. And he's reading it and he's just like, "Oh man, this is great." Like, so he's having a good time.
that's awesome, man. You know what's interesting is that like, I write and I'm a very heavy reader, and people always go, "Oh, you probably liked English classes." No, I actually hated English classes for the most
Yeah.
part.
Yeah.
I feel like it's sad because English classes tend to focus on grammar and, the 5 paragraph essay. And I'm really into literature and I'm into literary analysis and that kind of stuff. And you don't really get a lot of that in like high school English. You have to wait until college to get into the actual literature part of stuff because,
Right.
you know, most of this stuff is just basic writing. And that it tends to be pretty boring. So like you kind of like spend, and it's probably easier to teach, right? Teaching grammar is probably a little bit easier because you can do worksheets and that kind of stuff and
Yeah.
projects instead of,
Yeah.
literary analysis, especially if you're like a young teacher in a midwit. So it's probably like, a lot easier. You know what's interesting? Hey, let's do this, right? Let's do this early on, right? So every time we do one of these episodes, or really, I've done it numerous times. I've asked people on Substack, "Hey, do you guys have any questions to ask?" Right? I
Oh,
always,
are we actually going to do that?
yeah,
Are we
let's do
actually going
that.
to do? Oh,
So
holy shit. Holy
we always
shit.
do that, and we always
This
freaking
is
forget.
fantastic.
We just forget, right? So we didn't get many questions today because I did it like an hour ago, so it wasn't that long time ago because I
Yes.
forgot to do it.
And I restacked it like an hour after that.
Yeah,
So
it
well
was
done,
like
me.
literally like I was actually like driving in my car on the way home from work when I put that post out.
All
So
right. Well, hey, here. Let's just start at the top. So the first thing we had was Matt330, longtime listener, longtime reader, longtime shit poster. I like that guy. Him and I have quite a few conversations. He's a
yeah, me
very
too,
interesting
me
dude.
too.
Hey, as a reprobate, I resemble that remark. So not so much of a question
Yeah, I
as
mean,
just yeah.
the
All
the
right. Well, I
truth of the
mean,
matter is that this is a podcast for reprobates by reprobates. So I think I
yeah.
answered it already, right?
Yeah,
Um,
pretty much nailed it.
y-
We
y-
are just reprobates doing reprobate things in a reprobated world.
yep.
So perfect. All right. Oh, our boy Colton,
All
Colton
right.
Scott, former
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 guest, former
podcast
guest.
guest. Yeah. So he asks, why are you gay? Spelled Ghey. So I'm not sure how that's different from Gay.
It's
But I'm
it,
interested in how the pod is going or how the pod is doing. Are you like ruler of Wachalia now? So
Wallachia,
Wallachia,
Wallachia.
whatever. Wachalia. I'm from Ohio. Fuck you.
That's in Romania.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
so
Oh, it's in Romania. Oh my God.
yeah,
How
so
do you
the
say it?
Wallachia.
Wallachia. Man, it
Yeah.
even sounds better like that. All right, fair enough.
So it's actually the post that asked the question and kind of answers how the podcast is doing. Well, I didn't realize, but I was like, oh, 61,000 downloads. Oh, well, that's pretty impressive. I didn't,
Yeah,
I
that's
mean,
cool, man.
I was expecting
That's
like,
total. That's total downloads?
yeah,
Just
I
from
was
Substack or
expecting,
like everywhere?
I think it's just Substack or everywhere. I'm not
Wow.
sure. It might be, I think it's everywhere. I don't know how
What the hell is
they
wrong with you people?
I,
Downloading reprobate podcasts.
right. It's very interesting because it's doing very well. When I started this podcast, it's about a year and like 2, 3 months ago, I expected like maybe 10,000 downloads in like 5 years type of thing. I thought it was gonna be something fun I did for myself.
Yeah.
Um, Actually, I think my wife got me a microphone and stuff, and so you should do a podcast, like as a birthday present last year. So, yeah, it's actually not only is it doing very well for I would say a very niche kind of podcast with maybe zero advertising on my part. Like I have done no like
Oh, that's the
outreach.
best.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's
Advertising is for fucking degens.
right.
Like
I don't I
I
don't
don't
do
want anything to do with that.
any algorithm hop in or anything like that.
No,
I don't even
no.
use
Oh my God.
hashtags. I don't even use hashtags. I just put it out, and if people like it, they read it. And I get people
Yeah.
actually in real life coming up to me and saying, "Hey, listen to your podcast," and
That's
I'm
the
like,
way. That's the
"Okay,
way.
that's
That's
cool."
when you this engagement farming, like, what's your favorite breakfast ever? Also, listen to the Black Ibis podcast. No, fuck that shit.
Maybe
All
we should make
right.
shirts with the Black Ibis logo and just wear them
Yeah.
around and just be like just a question mark above the Black Ibis, and people go, what does that mean?" Oh, you don't know. It's a club. I don't know. Whatever.
Or esoteric cult.
But
That sounds
yeah,
good.
I think we've been doing great, and we've had some fun, light conversations. We had some great literary like conversations, and we had some really interesting, heavy hitting political conversation on here, cultural political, like Konstantin Hofmeister, Uncouth Barbarian. We had all those cool guys. Next week we got Mr. John Carter coming on.
Oh shit. Oh shit.
Right.
That's
It's
gonna
going to be a
be
good one. He's a Substack slash X favorite. We had, I really enjoyed Autumn Christian last week. It was kind of a short episode because she
yeah.
has a kid, but she's a great writer. I mean, of course, in the classics like Lisa and all the people. We need to get
Yeah.
Alexander Helene back on here.
Oh
Um,
yeah, we gotta get Alex on here. I'm
yeah,
sad that I've missed those episodes with
he's
him.
it's been a while since he's been on.
But
But yeah, so let's
man,
go.
next week's gonna be a lot of fun, especially since the Canadian election is over and like, oh my God, that's gonna be such a funny episode or whatever it is we end up talking about.
I mean, the
All
only
right.
sad part about the Canadian election thing is I was thinking about that. I was like, how do I feel about the Canadian election? And I'm like, I don't even think about it because I don't think about Canada. So I just
I don't even
I don't really
we're doing
care.
the meme. I don't even think about you.
I mean, honestly, whoa, my dog
The
is
dog
barking.
has more opinions about
Yeah,
the
my dog's
Canadian
like,
election.
maybe my dog's Canadian. Maybe that's why
Maybe.
I just upset her because she's barking something.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, but that's the thing. I
So
just don't really think about it.
that's all right. That's fine. Next comment from Uncouth Barbarian. Do you have a book do you wish to be reading right now and why? A solid question. Oh, wait, no, I'm sorry. I skipped Brothers Crin. I'm such an
You know what? Give me
asshole.
1 second. Let me go check out my dog
All
real
right, all
quick.
right. So you're going
Okay.
to check out your dog.
Yeah.
Well, since I'm just tap dancing solo right now, hey everybody, how you doing? You're a lovely crowd. It's good to see you all. No, so Brothers Crin asked favorite novel, and then Uncouth Barbarian has, do you have a book you wish you were reading right now and why? Well, folks, my answer to that favorite novel, that's a tough one, guys, because I'm one of these assholes who basically has a list of favorites and it varies depending on my mood and what I'm reading about, what I'm studying, and what's going on in my life, and it varies. So, right now, my favorite novel is probably Starship Troopers by Robert Heinlein. With my job as a social studies teacher, I've been essentially trying to go on the Mr. Dubois arc. Mr. Dubois is one of the main characters of the book. He is the teacher of history and moral philosophy for the hero Rico, Johnny Rico. and is famous for pointing out that violence has solved more questions than any other method in all of human history. But anyway, I'd have to say Starship Troopers is probably the book that I wish I was reading. As far as the one that I wish I was reading right now, that's probably going to be two books. One of them is Immoral Man and Moral. No, wait, sorry. Moral Man and Immoral Society by Reinhold Niebuhr. He's a Protestant theologian from back in the 30s, and I started his book early last year, I think. This is one of those slow burn books that I'm just taking my time on. But I've been thinking about a lot of things recently, and I feel like I want to get back to it. But he basically explores how it is possible for individuals to be moral, for individuals to be, you know, good. And then once you scale that up into immoral society, it's just at scale. The larger organizations eventually fall apart. So you could just say it's more rise and fall of empire bullshit. Beyond that, yeah, I think that's really all I got. The only other books I could think I wish I'd be reading right now is probably Lord of the Rings. I watched the movies again recently, and well, y'all know how that goes. Hey, Alex, you back yet?
Yeah, I'm back. I was just
Oh, thank God. I
letting you
thought I was gonna
finish.
have to. I was like thinking of a third thing to talk about. And I just went,
Yeah,
fuck.
okay. So I'll answer the question real fast myself, right?
Yeah, favorite
Okay.
novel, and then what do you wish you were reading right now?
Okay, for Mr. Brothers Crin, who will be a guest in the next few weeks himself.
Oh, hell yeah. I'm
Um,
looking forward to that. Isn't he
and
French?
I
Isn't he
don't know.
French?
We'll find
I'm
out.
pretty sure he's French. Then
I,
I'm just excited. I get to finally figure out how to properly say sacre bleu.
oh, you know,
I'm
we
very
might
I'm
have
very excited about
the
that.
first French person. We had a German on, so
Yeah.
now we'll have a French person. We have plenty of Canadians on.
Look. The highest compliment, if Brothers Crane is French, the highest compliment I can give him is that for a French guy, he's not bad.
One of the
All
best
right, he's all
writers of
right.
all
He's all
time is
right.
French. Well, so actually, one of the best writers of the 21st century is French, when that's Celine, right? And if you haven't read Celine, you're wrong. So definitely need to read Journey to the End of the
Noted.
Night. Journey to the End of the Night by Celine. Celine's very interesting. He was
Oh,
a World War I vet, lost his mind, got put in the mental hospital, got out, and he became a hardcore Nazi after that. Well,
nice.
an anti-Semitic fascist, basically. He was such an anti-Semite that during the occupation of Paris, and he was already a big writer by that time. He was a doctor and he was a big writer. Uh, uh, Ernst Jünger met Celine, and Ernst Jünger thought that the dude was an unhinged anti-Semite. He's like, this guy's a little bit extreme, for like, you know. Um,
Oh, that's
so he's
fantastic.
like, I'm not gonna hang out with this lunatic, right? Like most
That's
Nazis
great.
thought that that dude was an unhinged anti-Semite, So but he was a magnificent writer, and Journey to the End of the Night is a masterpiece of the 20th century. Interestingly enough, I came across it at Barnes and Noble recently. I was like, oh, they have Celine. Well, that's interesting. Um, so that's the French thing. Now, my favorite novel, that's a very easy one. If you've listened to the podcast, Brothers Crane, you should know. My favorite novel is The Brothers Karamazov by Dostoevsky, right? The greatest
Yes, I
novel
should
of
have
all
guessed.
time, undisputed in my opinion. Some of the other novels I really love, there's actually a podcast episode where I list and I talk about them. So you can look back onto that. I'll link it. It's some of I picked some non-mainstream. Well, okay, they're non-classic novels that I find really good. I really like Umberto Eco's Foucault's Pendulum. I really enjoy Donna Tartt, actually, The Secret History. There's a few novels. I really like an author that has kind of fallen out of favor. He was a much more prominent author, but he passed away, and he was kind of in the 60s, 70s, the white male author. And that is the writer of the Magus, right? And he wrote the Magus, also wrote the Maggot. He also wrote what do you call it? The French Lieutenant's Mistress or whatever it's called, the French Lieutenant's Woman or whatever. And
Okay.
he's a fantastic writer. Let me go pull up the book real fast and I'll tell you.
Okay. Do. Do.
Yeah, the
Do do
author is
do.
John Fowles, and He was huge in like the 60s, 70s, and he kind of like fell, he just kind of disappeared. But
Hmm.
the Magus, I don't know how to pronounce it properly, is probably one of my top favorite novels. It's very much about a young guy, young college grad that takes you like it because he's a young guy. He graduates college in England, post-war England. He misses World War II, right? So he's kind of a C.S. Lewis like
Hmm.
contemporary, I guess, right? And he's kind of lost. He's got this girlfriend he meets, but he needs to GTFO out of England. He's got like some money because his parents passed away. So he takes a job as a teacher on a small little island in Greece.
Nice.
He goes out there and he's teaching at this all boys English school or whatever on this tiny little island, and weird shit starts to happen. Like he finds like this like mansion type house, and there's this dude there, and this guy is like weird and like ghosts appear and all kinds of crazy stuff happen, and he's not sure
Hmm.
if it's real or if he's getting fucked with, if there's actors or I can't spoil it, but it's a very like schizophrenic young man, sad man, sensitive young man kind of novel, and it's excellent, Um, yeah, those are some of my favorite novels, but I'll link the post. And as for Uncouth
Perfect.
Barbarians, opinion, question, right? Of like, do I wish what book I was reading? Oh, all
Yeah.
of them, right?
All of them.
I mean, I've
Show
been
off.
because my life has been I've been slammed with the endless dumpster fire of events recently. I have just not had the energy to read as much. I used to average about a novel every few days. Now I just have been just dead. When it comes to like get home from work and I do all the stuff with the dogs and my daughter and we do all this stuff and I'm just like exhausted, and like I just don't have the brain. Like I don't know how it is. It's like the energy to even read a book or like really enjoy. So I've been reading a lot of nonfiction because of that. I actually find nonfiction less taxing than having to like relax and enter into like a literary world. But if I had the time right now, what I've been meaning to do, I want to do a full read of like the classics of Russian literature. I want to go through some Dostoevsky, some Tolstoy, Nabokov, all the all just the Russian stuff. Um, and I've been meaning to read Lolita actually because my wife has just finished Lolita and she like kept on reading parts to it. And I was like, it's a hilarious novel. Yes, it's a novel about a pervert pedophile, but it's also hilarious. Whatever people that read it can attest to that.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I want to do a thing on 19th century Russian literature and read some of the big stuff. Like I want to go through like all the Dostoevsky, the major works, not the minor stuff. I have not yet read the Idiot by Dostoevsky. I've been kind of putting that on the side, saving it for last. I want to reread the Brothers Karamazov. I have a new translation in my room over here. Um, I want to. I have not read War and Peace, and I can reread Anna Karenina because it's been like 20 years since I've read that one. So I just kind of want to go through some of those and maybe do a podcast episode just dedicated to Russian lit from that era. And what I actually
Sounds like a good idea.
on my desk right now, I'll tell you right now what I've got. This is like not even like my whole pile of to read books. I've got a bunch on my Kindle, right? I've got Orthodoxy and the Religion of the Future, which is by Father Seraphim Rose. This is the one that Noah was talking about the other day. I don't know if you
Okay.
caught that conversation. It's talks about basically how aliens and stuff and all the New Age stuff is just really demons. So it's pretty interesting. Got a tiny book called On the Incarnation by Saint Athanasius, right, with an introduction by C.S. Lewis. I don't know what it's about. Well, it's on the Incarnation, but I just bought it because it had 5 stars and it was interesting looking. I got a Byung-Chul Han book called Psychopolitics, Neoliberalism and the Technologies of Power, which I've read most of it. I've just been kind of reading it, and it's mostly like little essays, so it's pretty good. I picked up Young's Modern Man in Search of a Soul. I've tried to read Young numerous times, and I love his ideas, but his actual writing tends to be kind of dry and I don't know, just kind of weird, you know? I don't know, not my, it's kind of tough to get through. I think it's
Yeah.
better, I think it's better to read other people writing on Young, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No,
Then
perfectly.
I've got Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, which I've never read for some reason. Okay, so I picked that up at Barnes and Noble the other day, and the reason I picked it up because I was listening to friend of the podcast, Kevin Kautzman from Art of Darkness, and they did an episode on Hunter S. Thompson, and I was like, man, I like Hunter S. Thompson. I've read a lot of his like shorter essay type pieces. I've seen the movie a million times, the one with Johnny Depp, but I've never actually read the book itself. So I was like, I should fix that. So I bought it and I just haven't gotten around to it. And the last book on my desk right now is The Spiritual Life and How to Be Attuned to It by St. Theophan the Recluse, right? It's another Christian Orthodox book. It's a very beautiful book, the way it's bound and everything. It even came with a, what do you call it? Like a bookmark with the Virgin Mary in it, and I think it's published by. Let me see. It doesn't even have the publishing marks on it because it's like fancy. It's yeah, it's published by the Holy Monastery of Saint Pius in Arizona. It's I don't know. It's a very like sweet looking book, you know. Yeah, and I've been in a religious mood because if you guys remember the episode with what's his name with our friend Isaiah, right? We
Yes.
talked about actually when I said Noah, I actually meant Isaiah in our chat. I didn't mean Noah. I don't know why I was thinking of Noah. Um, when we had Isaiah on last time, I talked, we talked about going to church and whether I'm going to do it or not. And, I did. I started going to the church that I was afraid to go to, and I've gone to it 5 times. I went for the midnight Easter. It's called Pascha in Orthodox Church, but went for the midnight Easter, and I love it. I went several times, and then my wife and daughter came, and they love the community and everybody, and yeah, I'm going to keep going, and I'm probably going to become a member of the church. I haven't taken communion. I haven't participated in Holy Communion yet, and the reason I haven't done that is because I've been baptized. I am baptized, but it's been such a long time that I really should go do confession and all that stuff. But I've
Hmm.
that's really been the highlight of my last few weeks going to church. You know, I mentioned this to Alexander Helene in a private chat the other day because he's an Orthodox guy, and I was like, it is so miraculous how like last weekend I was in just a hellacious mood, man. Like for some reason I was just in a wicked mood. I don't know what came over me. I was just everything was pissing me off. Like the way like my dogs looked at me, the way like my wife was putting like everything was pissing me off, you know? And it was the whole weekend. Oh yeah, it was my birthday too. That's probably why I was in a pissed off mood because I'm getting old. And I went that's my birthday on Friday, right? And I went to
Happy birthday, you bastard.
thank you.
Anyway,
I turned 42, if you guys don't
42.
remember. Yeah, I'm a fucking geezer. My coworker at work, she gave me a card and it says, Happy birthday, Grandpa. I was like, oh my God.
Wow.
Um,
Man, over here, I'm going to be 44 in November.
mm, I'm catching up to you, you know what I mean? So it's cool. I
Yeah, I'll be
look,
dead any minute. I'll be dead any minute.
I look 30, guys, so don't worry. I can, I'm still good. I'm still a
I get that
beast.
too. I get that too. A lot of people like, yeah, you got to be no older than 35. I'm like, ah, bless you, child.
I don't have any receding hairline. Like my hairline's perfect. Okay. I don't have any thin hair. I do have like a shock of gray hair that like has appeared in the last 2 years. It's mostly from like hatred and anger that's like fucking building up in me all the time. But I'm
Yeah.
hoping that it, either goes all white. It's not because my dad did not have white hair or anything. He had a full head of hair until he passed away. My uncle is in
Lucky,
his
lucky, lucky.
yeah, my uncle's in his 60s. He has a full head of hair, so I'm trying to be safe. My younger brothers don't,
Oh, I'm
not
I'm
so
I'm I'm
much.
long gone. I'm long gone. I'm gonna die with not a single thing, not a single object on my head.
Just embrace
So
it, man.
that's fine. No, 100% embrace it. One of my favorite things every year is whenever I get a new class of students, they're like, why are you bald? I'm like, because that's what fucking happens to men.
Yeah, you'll find out when you're 19.
Yeah,
You know,
what? You think I'm going to take drugs to fix this? Fuck you.
yeah,
Absolutely
put on
not.
a wig.
This shit's going. Nah, look, you grow a beard. All right, that's what you do. You man up, you grow a beard.
Yeah, you
You
can't
grow
grow it on your
hair.
head. It just
Nah.
moves down to your.
Yeah, exactly. It's coming out of my ears, it's coming out of my nose, and it's all over my chin and under my nose. All right. That's
Baby
how this
dwarfs.
works. You
But
grow a goddamn beard.
but yeah, dude, like I'm
And
telling
you
you now,
get a hat. You get a nice hat. That's important.
you need a hat. I can't wear hats.
Yeah,
My
I've
head,
got a
my
great
head's
hat.
too big. I look dumb with hats on. It's really funny. Like
Oh, I look great with hats on. I
some
got
people.
this. I got this Panama looking Indiana Jones motherfucker. It's fantastic.
I mean, I'm always jealous. Like some people look good with hats. I look completely stupid with it. Like it just doesn't like my wife's tried. She's like, oh, my wife's like, oh, I like hats. And when we first started dating, before we got married and stuff, she'd always like have me try on hats at stores and stuff. And she'd be like, no, that's gonna be cute. And then she puts it on me, and she's like, yeah, no, take it off. Like just take it off. And it just I've never looked good in hats. Beanies and that kind of stuff, that's fine, but for the most part, hats just don't do it. But what I was saying is that I was in this hellacious mood because it was my birthday and everything was going to
Right.
shit, and I was just irritated about everything, and the dog having diarrhea all over my house, and just the mountain of like oppressive like life.
Right.
And you go to church, and I feel amazing. It's just it's like those 2 hours are just like in the community, and staying after for a coffee hour, and there's like the church I go to is a very small church. It's a mission church, so it's like just beginning. They're going to be building a actual building right now. They're renting a place, but they're building an actual church itself. Um, and it's got about like 100 people, and they all are amazing, and there's so many kids, just like my daughter loves going because after church, like they just like play and run around and stuff, and like it's just like I feel so like rejuvenated by that the presence that of going into like a holy place, and like taking part in everything. And it's just like I was telling Alex, I was like, man, that is like I don't know, it was just there. I feel like a kind of a presence that is missing in my life. And then I go the whole week and I'm just irritated by Friday, and then like come back and I'm good again. So it's been great. But yeah, there you go. That's my question, Uncouth. What's next? What we got next?
Yeah. Next. So let's see. Somebody named Felix Mark. More of a request than a question. Give an intro to Yaki. He's still an unknown to most of our side. To most of our
Okay,
side.
I saw that one, and I'll do it. But this is a third rail. Okay, so
Third
Yaki.
rail.
Okay, let me pull it up real fast.
Yeah.
Yaki was
Uh,
actually mentioned on our podcast. What was it? Was it Uncouth Barbarian? No. Who was it with? Who mentioned who got us reading that book on the European right? It was the episode we did. What's his name? Gosh, I'm mind bar.
Constantine?
Not before Constantine.
Copernicus?
Copernicus introduced me to Yaki. I've heard the name before,
Oh,
but
yeah, yeah, yeah. No,
now I'm
I've
familiar.
heard the name too. I
Okay,
was thinking too, that book you wrote, Imperium, The Philosophy and History of Politics.
right. So
That's one of those, isn't
that's what
it?
he wrote. Yes,
Yeah, okay,
and
okay.
so I mean, Yaki is an American. He was in he was a he basically worked at the War Crimes Tribunal in Germany in 1945.
Yep.
He either resigned or was fired because he sided with the Nazis. He had some parts. He took part in Oswald Mosley's fascist union movement in England. He had a falling out. He supposedly worked for the Soviet bloc in Eastern Europe. He's an anti-Semite, and he's a very like right-wing Nazi sympathizer kind of guy. He
Right.
spent the end of his life. Well, he died pretty young. He committed suicide in jail. Actually, he spent most of his life kind of bouncing around in third world or second world Eastern European countries. And he wrote Imperium under a pseudonym. And he was he wasn't part of the American Nazi Party, which is like the Lincoln Rockwell Nazi Party, because he was kind of an anti-American in a way. And he ended up getting arrested for he got caught at an airport and he got arrested because of like passport fraud because he was bouncing around.
Right.
And he he kind of like he kind of he committed suicide. He carried a cyanide pill on himself and he cracked it open in jail in San Francisco. And he died. And then his ideas were basically popularized by more Nazi fascist kind of aligned Americans. And it's interesting because I like he fits more into the European New Right kind of mindset in a way. Um,
Hmm.
than he does into an American right wing mindset. He's definitely like, he would not be under a conservative Republican kind of mindset. He was kind of into kind of the red brown thing. Have you ever heard about that?
No.
It
What's that?
the red brown thing is basically like the red brown alliance, which is the idea that like the red represents the communists, right? Like far
Right.
left kind of
Oh, okay, okay,
being
okay.
being friends with the kind of fascist kind of elements, nationalist elements. So in a way, like a socialism, communism, but on a national kind of scale. Um, he's also mainly remembered like that's kind of the thing that like sets off the all red flags is that he's a Holocaust denier and that kind of stuff. So do I think that he has value? I mean, I think you should read all stuff, and I am sure
Yeah, read whatever you want.
there's ideas, but
Absolutely.
when he's first of all he has very anti-Christian kind of elements. So
Uh-oh.
and occultist, he influenced a lot of those like kind of like Odinist neo-Nazi types, right? And to
Yeah.
me I find that like nonsense, right? If you're gonna read fascist stuff or hardcore right-wing stuff, there I think that the Romanian kind of fascists are a lot more interesting, like the Legionnaire stuff. It's ultimately it's tainted 100%. Like you're never going to get any political value out of something like this because, and I'm going to get a lot of crap from the super right wing guys, right? You're not going to get anything. We're trying to build a better future, right? And going on about Jews forever is not productive. You know what I mean? And
Did you
frankly,
see?
I'm not interested in that. Like
No.
I don't
Did you see some
care
of the
about that.
did you see some of the retardation I ran into today on Substack?
Right.
Speaking of which, like just poking fun at the white pagans and had a couple of guys like basically lose their mind on me. It's like, guys, relax. All right. Come on. You're not pagan. That's not a thing. All
Right.
right. Just stop.
It's that. It's like, look, I think that you should be able to have a discussion about all this stuff, right? I think that
Right.
we
Yeah.
should be able to have a discussion about everything, right?
Right.
But at the same time, you know, your entire political movement cannot be based on Holocaust denial and hating Jews. I mean,
Yeah.
cool, okay, and
The
what?
the the thing that gets me is, for example, this guy asked me a question, do you even hate Jews? And I just respond with, should I? It was an honest question. Like I was like, should I? Like, why? Make the and then goes off why goes off on me because obviously, I don't or whatever. And it's like, you're not looking to persuade me of anything. This is just doctrine. You want me to say the words. You want me to say the words. Like
Right,
say the yeah, okay, sure, kill the Jews or whatever. Like, come on. Like you're not actually looking to have me on a side or do anything. It's just you're screaming doctrine at me. And that's not going to work. That's never going to work. And it shouldn't work. You should be able to properly persuade people to your position, not, wait, what do you mean? Do you even lift, bro? Do you even hate Jews, bro? Like, come on, fuck off.
Right.
It's just stupid. It's just
And
stupid.
you know, ultimately, from kind of looking into, like a lot of the very, very, very far right, kind of stuff tends to have there's an air of edginess to it, to the whole, JQ thing or whatever, and it's tiresome, it's like when like your middle schooler discovers like Satanism or whatever, and he buys a satanic Bible and
Right.
stuff and is like, oh,
This is all
look
the
at,
stuff my parents hate.
yeah,
Woo!
it's that, but
Bro.
like for 20-year-olds in a way, right?
Oof.
And it's
Oof.
like, okay, all of these things have there's nuance to it, and your entire political outlook cannot be based on shadowy things or, I don't know, man. Like, look, our cultural problems, right? There are not because some kind of shadowy Jewish cabal is making you, making your wife inject her face with Botox or and cheat on you. You know what I mean? There's a lot more cultural problems than that. Like the religious members that are okay. So when people say Jewish, they like which ones, right? Because most of the Jewish people are very secular, Hollywood type Jewish people, New York type of Jews, and there's Hasidic Jews and stuff, right? Look, I'm sure there's a bunch of shitty ones that those got all of those groups, right? But there's a
Yeah.
lot of shitty other people too, of all religions,
Right.
and I don't know, man. And then the pagan thing, the whole pagan thing is very interesting. But like you said, nobody believes in that kind of stuff. Nobody goes to like it's just the whole thing is silly. And there's a reason everybody in Europe converted to Christianity because it's true. And yeah, it's goodbye, bro. It's been over
Yeah.
1,500 years that most places have converted to Christianity. uh I'm not gonna go pray around a fucking tree, okay? Just get over yourself, man. You know what I mean? Walpurgis night, we need to exercise these stupid fucking witches, right? So listen, I know I'm gonna lose friends, not friends, not my friends, right? But I'm just not interested in that. I'm not interested in Canada. I'm sorry, don't care about it. Don't even think about it, right? I'm not interested in the Middle East conflict, right? Honestly, I couldn't give a flying fuck if, the last Israeli shoots the last Palestinian and then steps in the landmine. Don't give a fuck about that, right? Not my people, not my problem. I'm
Yeah.
concerned about where I live right now. You know what I mean? Um, there's and of course I care about the human element of it, right? I want humans to live in harmony and peace, right? Like we're intended to, instead of hating each other and shit, right? But I cannot concern myself with that because I have no stake in the game. It is whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
Geopolitical interests of our government at large is not my problem, it is how it is, right? And that's not going to change the culture, okay? You sitting there in your underwear somewhere, or even like, well dressed and going on about, 1944 ideas is just not going to change it, right? Ultimately, right? The truth of the matter is, right? Bringing up the corporal and all this stuff is just edginess, okay? You're just you're it's silly. It's just as silly as like, they're left wing guys going on about Hitler over and over and over all the time, and it's just fucking boring. And ultimately, the greatest blow to in the 20th century to any right wing movement has actually been Hitler. Okay, Hitler fucking ruined the right wing because all the ideas, which some of them are very good, right, are ruined because they're forever tarred with that nonsense, right? And
Right.
because of that, you get people calling you a fascist and a Hitler basically, when you're trying to deport people that are illegally in this country and all this kind of stuff. And we're stuck in that forever. I just hate it all around, So the 20th century 1930 to 45 rule applies on the right as much as it applies on the left. Is Imperium interesting? Maybe. I don't know. I haven't read it. I don't really
Read it,
care.
find out for yourself.
I just, I've read, I've done a lot of reading on like a lot of the European New Right guys, guys that like Constantine von Hofmeister is into, like guys like Alain de Benoit and a lot of French guys and that kind of stuff, right? They're
Yeah.
very interesting and they have some interesting ideas. Very like, especially a lot of them are anti-racist and stuff, kind of like Multipolarity, the book was, right?
Yeah.
Um, what's what is a key takeaway though is that they're European, right? The issues and concerns that affect them do not affect us here in the United States. We have a different culture. We're a different people. We don't have um, the deep cultural ties to Europe anymore. Okay. I think America needs to break away and kind of create an ethnogenesis of an America, separate from ideas that might work well in Europe, but not so much here and there. And honestly, I'm not convinced that the interest of the European right wing and nationalist in Europe can actually, work together with nationalism or the idea of an American nationalism in the United States, because by definition, to be nationalist is to be pro your country first. And
Right.
sometimes you're going to have, different goals, right? And what's good for France might not be good for America. What's good
Yeah.
for, Czech Republic might not be good for America, and vice versa, right? So,
Right.
in a way, nationalism makes it hard to have these greater like right wing solidarity or whatever, because that's really what the communists do. The communists are the international crowd, right? By definition, the right wing is anti internationalism. So it's I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if I would ever be really into reading, mid 20th century anti-Semitic stuff. And guys that influence Odinists and that type of thing. I don't know how that would. I'm sure there's great ideas there. I don't know how that would apply to our current political goal. And really, I'm not a political person. I'm much more into the culture and the literature type stuff. So I don't know. That's my answer. Kind of a long one. There we
Good
go.
answer. Good answer. It makes me wonder too how culture will change and how that stuff will look, especially in the United States, where even America, an American, isn't even a sufficient phrase to really describe what all of us are. I mean, we've talked about it before, how many different places we've lived. You and I have both lived all over the United States. It's a little different. I mean, Ohio and Florida and Maine and California and Colorado and all the places we've lived. And I'm planning some trips to Texas because I want to see what Texas is about. Um, it doesn't fit. The words just don't work, especially as we move away from this universal values, one global community bullshit that has been, kept us trapped since, throughout the 20th century. But yeah, I don't know, man. You're right.
Yeah,
I
it's
think I think oh, sorry, go ahead.
no, go ahead. You finish your thought,
I
man.
was just going to say, it looks like as far as questions go, that's it. We do have one comment where Mr. Josh Tater, the illustrious Josh Tater, seems frustrated that he cannot ask us why are you gay? So
Well, I'll answer it. Why am I gay? Well, I'm gay because I'm happy, okay?
yeah,
And
exactly. We're happy.
probably because I'm European, okay? Let's be honest here, like that, I don't know.
That's great. Yeah, no, we're gay in the traditional happy way of yeah, we're just happy.
Yeah, we're just happy people,
Happy go lucky.
we're
It's
not gonna
fine.
brood. Talking about happy people, I saw this post on X, right?
Okay.
And it
Saw
it
a post on X. All
it
right,
it
go.
touched close to home, right? I forgot who
All
it
right.
was. It was somebody that I don't know. I don't know if I follow them or not. I'm only like sporadically on X now, and I it was talking about the Savannah bananas. Have you ever heard of the Savannah bananas?
No, I've not heard of the Savannah Bananas. I'm unfamiliar with this
Okay,
concept.
so the Savannah Bananas are a baseball team, right? They're not even
You know what? I should have known that. I should have just known that.
they're not like obviously not a made MLB team,
Yeah,
and
right.
not a they're not even like a little league team, not a little league team. I mean like a minor league. They're like just
Okay.
their own fucking thing. They're like the baseball version of what's that basketball team that was on Scooby
Um,
Doo?
The Harlem
Yeah,
Globetrotters?
yeah, exactly. It is the
Savannah
baseball version
Bananas.
of
Oh
that, right?
God. Oh God.
Okay, and there's Savannah
Okay. All
Bananas,
right. Go
and
ahead.
they put on the show and stuff, right? And he went off on a rant against them, right? But I went to the optometrist yesterday, right? And by the way, my eyes are perfect; they're fantastic. You know, my vision stayed the
Nice.
same, and I don't need reading glasses because the optometrist said my optic nerve is fantastic and my near vision is great. So I'm like, yeah,
Fantastic.
I'm not old. Um,
Yeah, you're not falling apart.
but when I was sitting in the optometrist office, I was sitting there in the waiting room waiting to be called back, and the TV was on, and it was on like ESPN, right? And I just don't fucking get ESPN, okay? I don't get it. You know, maybe I'm not one of those dudes that's like, oh, sports ball is stupid or anything like that. I understand why people like sports, but I don't understand how people can watch ESPN. You know, you have these like women and these dudes in there talking all serious about like this stuff, and I'm just like, what the fuck, who wants to watch this? This is like brain dead, you know, like
I remember watching that when I was a kid, but it was mostly just for like Sports Center and like here's all the cool shit that happened. And then they would just highlight all the crazy shit people did.
yeah, I guess maybe like
Top 10 plays and stuff. I mean, that stuff was always entertaining.
maybe
Do
it's
they
some
still do
people's
that or
version
is
of
it?
maybe it's some people's version of podcast. They like to watch people talk
Oh,
about sports. I don't know. To me, it's like really weird, you know. But so I was thinking about sports for some reason, and then I'm on fucking X this morning, and I'm like scrolling through it, and this dude, like, I noticed Savannah Bananas, right? So for guys that don't know, Bananas is like a team out of Savannah, right? Because they're Savannah Bananas, and they put on a show. It's like they like sing songs and dance and stuff, and it started very organic, and it just got huge, right? And Savannah does not have its own like Major League Baseball team, so if you want to see baseball in South Carolina, Georgia, I don't know. I guess you have to go to Atlanta for the Braves, I think, right? That's like the nearest like baseball team.
hmm.
I don't like baseball, right? I've been to one baseball game my entire life. But but they're huge. People love them because basically you get a ticket, you go with your friends and family, and you get shit-faced drunk in on a nice summer day or spring day, and you're having a blast, right? And they usually play at the small stadium, right? And they're so popular in the local area that you see T-shirts everywhere. People always wear the Savannah Bananas, and it's just like a community thing. It's like a local thing that like people out here love. But it's so popular that like there's a waiting list to get on a ticket, right? Like you
Hmm.
literally have to put your name on a list, and they like when a friend gets, oh, I got 4 tickets, and like you go with them. I've never been because I don't care about baseball, but ultimately, like people that like baseball and like the show, it's something to take your kids to or whatever. But they've been getting bigger and bigger and bigger in the last few years. Now they're like at a big stadium, and I guess the dude posted something about like it was a full stadium. It was a video of it, people like dancing along with them because they do all this little like they have a little dancing shtick in between like hitting home runs or whatever, right?
Hmm.
And this dude's like, oh, what's going on? It's like the infantilization, sissification of sports or whatever, right? And I'm like, man, shut the fuck up, right? Like, here we go. The whole example of the Savannah Bananas is really like what we're going for, which is community. Major League Sports has become lame, and the reason it's lame is because it's corporate. It's all about money and ESPN type stuff. It is, which is owned by Disney. It is
Yeah.
completely corporate slop, right? The philosopher, sociologist, what's his name? Christopher Lash, right? In his main book, right? He writes there's a section about sports, and he kind of laments, and he wrote this in the 80s, right, or the 70s, and he laments about like the complete degeneracy of um, major league sports, right? Look, the idea of sports is that the people around you, the best athletes and stuff represent you. It's supposed to be a community thing. There's a reason why sports teams used to be tied to the city. So when you went to see the sports team, you went and saw the guys that you worked with at your high school job, or the guys from your high school that graduated and are now pro athletes or something like that. When people liked the New York Yankees back in the day when it was like Babe Ruth and stuff, well, guess what? Babe Ruth was from fucking New York, right? I think he was, right? But you know what I mean? It was
Yeah.
your people, it was your friends. You worked with the guy hitting the home run at the steel mill or whatever before he, made it big, right? And or you went to college with him or something, right? And it was about local community and representing where you come from. But with the
I'm afraid you're going to get ripped a little in the comics, in the comments. Babe Ruth was from Maryland,
oh, but
and
yeah, that's still like
and he was
he
traded from Boston to New York, the famous or the infamous trade that led to Boston's epic win
curse
drought.
or whatever. No, that was Chicago.
Yes.
That was the Chicago guys. That
No, the Cubs are still cursed.
yeah, the Cubs are still cursed. Yeah,
Yeah. Cubs are still cursed, right?
because they
I
have
don't know. I haven't followed this shit.
the goat stuff or whatever.
Yeah,
Um,
no, Boston won all those World Series like not too long ago, but they're cursed for a real long time.
yeah, but ultimately,
Anyway,
right, for the most part, it was the teams were very local, you know, and then they became more and more and more national and national and got bigger and bigger. But now we get to the point where it's just like Hollywood, right? It doesn't represent anything anymore. It's just a money making thing, and it's just so commercial, where who the fuck can afford to go to baseball games like or like football games and stuff like that? They're so expensive, right? And it's
yeah.
lost the element of any type of like community involved in there, right? Um, Now like it used to be from like when rep the team, it used to be like you're repping like the local area, right? You're like, oh, I'm into these guys because I'm from there. Now it's like repping like a brand, like the teams have become brands, and it's lame, right? To me it's lame, right? I remember when I lived in San Diego, everybody in San Diego is really big into the Chargers, right? The football team, and there's Chargers crap everywhere and everything, right? And then the Chargers are like, we're gonna move, you know, like
Right.
it's an asshole like shitty thing, right? You had the Raiders move from LA to Oakland to San Diego to Las Vegas, blah blah. It's just lame, it's just commercial, lame. The tickets are expensive. You go there and the beer, like a crappy like Miller Lite, is like freaking $20 and stuff. It's just it's shitty and corporate. So then you get these guys that love baseball and they go to see the Savannah Bananas for like $12 and they're hanging out with friends. Nobody's getting stabbed. It's like a fun, like
No, it's
local,
just
local, like, yeah, it's not a Raiders game or whatever where you're going to get murdered in the parking lot.
right.
Um, it's just this fun, like thing where it's like, it's athletic, but it's also like just a pleasant thing to do with your family, with your kids, because you can actually go to the freaking baseball game with your kids because you can actually afford it, unlike major league stuff where nobody can freaking afford it. Like you imagine a family of like, 4 or 5 to go with their kids, like that's thousands of dollars in tickets, right? And it's like, what, how are you going to shit on that, man? Like you're gonna shit on people
Right.
having fun in their community,
Right.
guys from Savannah playing in Savannah and having a good time. Like, what kind of a like if that you're just a tool, I don't know. That's how I feel, man. What do you think about that?
I think it's ridiculous that you would make fun of something like that. I mean, just I'm looking at the mascot right now. It's a banana with a bat. What more do you want out of fucking life?
Right,
The Savannah Bananas. We make baseball fun.
right,
Fantastic. No, this reminds me of just old time baseball. It's a show. We're having a good time. We're going to the park and they're gonna have
right.
this game thing going on
It's
while
entertain.
we
It's
hang out.
entertainment, man. It's supposed to
Yeah.
be fun. It's supposed to be fun for your family and stuff. And it's it just I don't know, man.
This stuff
Like
looks the stuff looks ridiculous.
yeah, it's just fun. It's fun, people going out, having beers, and enjoying themselves, right? It's very America coded in a way. Like not everything has to be doom and gloom and, focusing on it's like the left, right?
No
Lefties
fun allowed. No fun
lefties in
allowed.
this country are completely fucking insufferable because they're fucking boring, right? They're constantly making you feel bad about everything. You're supposed to feel bad about the environment. You're supposed to feel bad about the color of your skin. Like if you're black, you have to be miserable because you were oppressed. If you're white, you're miserable because you were oppressor. You have to feel bad about living in the U.S. because it was stolen from Native Americans or whatever the fuck. They're constantly shitting on everything fun, right? It's just if you live
Yeah.
by every leftist kind of like ideal, you're just a miserable shit all the time. You're constantly living under oppressive like fascism fascism, and you're living in a sewer like the French Resistance or something like that. It's just miserable shit. All the time, and everybody's always
Yeah.
oppressed. But then you have
It's
the same.
fun. It's fun. It's fun because it's reminded me of, I started doing community theater recently.
Mhm.
And I mean, I don't know if doing one show makes you part of community theater, but the crowds are having a good time. People are having a good time. We're having more, more people are showing up than what they expect for this time of year. Um, and they're talking about future shows and future ideas. And a buddy of mine at work, we're thinking about putting on two-man shows at the theater. Call it I don't know what you want to call it, guys doing stuff, or I mean, who knows. Not gay though. But it you go to this community thing, you do something for the people in the town that you live in, and it's fun. It's just fun.
Right.
Alex, the most amazing part for me of doing theater is, my role's not that big, but when I get off the stage, whether it's rehearsal or the actual performance, I feel good. And it isn't, this overwhelming manic sense. It's that rare sense of accomplishment. It's cool, man. It's
Right.
just like,
It's
yeah, that was
fun. It's
that was
it's
and everybody plays along. Like even the audience, like they participate in it. They're playing along with, just as much as the folks on the stage are. So that's when I'm looking at this, that's Savannah Banana stuff. That's I'm getting the same feeling. Like everybody's playing along, everybody has having a good time. Hey, Black Ibis Social Club meetup at the Savannah Bananas.
Yeah, I mean, we can't get tickets because now
Done.
they're too cool, like, but what's
But in the
interesting is,
future,
how like the leftists are the boring, unfun people. This is a right wing opinion, right? This is like the right wing guys tend to have this too sometimes. They tend to be
yeah.
fucking boring, like there's a thread of American right wings, by the way. It tends to not exist in Europe, right? It tends to be this thread of right wing where everything has to be freaking serious. You're always going to be concerned about the JQ and blah blah blah, and
They're like,
everything. It's like you come
baseball there are Jews to hate.
right. We got no time for that. We got to hate on people or something. But what's interesting, I just found the X, the Twitter account, and the comment on it, right? Uh, it's disgraced propagandist is the person that posted that, right? And in his description of his profile, right, he's got like 25,000 followers or whatever. He's a big dog on the internet, right? He has a Substack too, huh? I never saw it. Anyways, he's got localism, populism, and free association and free enterprise, right? That's what he believes in. That's according to him, right?
Okay,
Well, I'm
great,
sorry you
cool,
don't like
whatever.
localism because the Savannah Bananas are localist, right? It's a local freaking team for us people living in Savannah, right? It is our guys. Okay. So localism, populism. Wow, it's popular and it's fun. Shit, there we go. Populism and localism, free association. Look, we enjoy going to the freaking sports. I'm sorry that having fun is not, I don't know, free association. I don't know. You know what I mean? And free enterprise. I guess, people going drinking beers and having fun with their friends and family is not localist and populist enough for him. Or he says he likes those things, but when he sees an example of it, he hates it, which is exactly why nobody fucking likes these people. Everybody fucking hates you. Okay. Like just calm the fuck down and just enjoy shit, and I'm a hater. So if I don't like it, it's pretty hardcore. You know what I mean?
Laughter is an underrated part of anything ever in the world forever.
And you know what? And I'm sure that he's, I'm sure he's a cool guy, and I'm probably being a jerk. I guess I felt it because I'm I am very fond of my adopted region of the country, right? Which is the South, right? And I enjoy our ridiculous nonsense that we do, and I like the Savannah Bananas because they're ours, they're our guys, and there you go. But then again, this is somebody that recommends the Walt Right as
Yeah, right.
a recommendation.
Ugh.
So there we go. That tells you a
Hey,
lot about the quality of thought there.
just to kind of change the subject to something funny or to something fun. Do we want to talk about my absence?
Yeah.
My absence from Substack for a couple days.
Oh yeah,
This
yeah. I
was
forgot about
yeah.
that. Yeah, yeah. Go
Yeah,
for
I got
it.
put in the gulag, man. No, I'm just kidding.
You got gulagged.
A day in the life of Fisto Sabanovich. No,
Yeah,
it's funny. So,
you
so
messaged me and I was like, what the hell happened there?
yeah, right. Nah. So what happened? So what had happened was, Saturday morning I wake up and I'm on Substack and I do something or whatever. Then I go away for a while and make my breakfast and I come back and I've used computers my whole life, so I know when something's up. And I'm trying to use Substack on my app, and it's like, oh, something's not working. What the heck? So I log into Substack on my desktop, and I get your account is currently suspended. Something you posted may have violated Substack spam and phishing policy. If you believe this is a mistake, you can submit an appeal to our standards and enforcement team here. So what's funny about this story, just funny about it, is it's the second time something like this has happened to me. The first time it turned out I actually found a legitimate bug. They had done something behind the scenes where it was trying to manage traffic as people, create their notes and send them out into the ether. And I can understand that there has to be for the server side and everything, tech, fancy tech nerd shit that you've got to have some kind of programming to make this all work. And apparently I'm sure me and some other people had seen it too, but I ended up emailing with Mills Baker a bit, who, by the way, Mills Baker, complete and utter gentleman. Like that guy, I'd love to have him on the show here. That would be such a hilarious thing. But he's just a legit cool guy. And we
Yeah,
email
he
back
seems
and
like
forth a
it.
little bit, talking about the problem. And he's like, "Yeah, we found this thing, and blah 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 blah." And I'm not, yeah, I don't even remember the details, but it was just kind of a cool experience. Having worked at a tech startup for a little bit, I was very good at breaking things and then bringing it to the attention of the tech guys. And it was always, it just reminded me of that. So that was fun. So the second time, it says, hey, submit an appeal to our standard enforcement team here. And I do that. And it takes a couple days, but on Monday there's messages. People have discovered that Fisto's gone. So, they're doing the shit post thing and pinging Mills and pinging Hamish and, all that stuff. And we're having a good time about it. And yeah, switch gets flipped. I'm back. And then I get an email from Substack. I think it was Tyler at Substack, real nice guy, just like, hey, your account was accidentally flagged for spam. The issue has been resolved. Everything's great. It's all set now.
That's awesome.
So as far as like what happened, I mean, I know a lot of people worry about Substack and content moderation and this and that and the other thing. And whatever happened, y'all got to remember this happened in the frame of not the frame, but it happened in light of the Emma Horstick thing.
Oh
And if
yeah.
and if anybody happened to mention that, some spammer somehow cracked the code, and literally it seemed like everybody on Substack got a message from Emma Horstick, who was just very supportive of whatever it is you had to say at all times.
I think I got one
Um,
of those.
yeah, the funny thing is, if you went to her profile, she had some link to a video that supposedly was like revealing or it was showing the truth about JD Vance or something. Like it was all just so dumb. But that kind of turned into a meme. So I wouldn't be surprised if I somehow like triggered something, like they put filters on that then I accidentally tricked because I was, Emma Horstick shit posting, which
Yeah,
if
that's
that's not,
probably it.
if that's not a fantastic phrase, Emma Horstick shit posting, I don't know what is. It's either that or I pissed off some fucking moron who was like, I'll mass report Fisto for spam. That'll show him.
Yeah, you probably pissed off the Templars.
Yeah, whatever. I'm back, motherfuckers. And then it
Uh,
was a great opportunity to switch to a Gandalf the White profile picture. So that
yeah,
was that
yeah,
was fun
no,
for
I
me.
like that. Welcome back. I saw your messages over the weekend, and I was like,
Yeah. Uh-oh.
I'll deal with this.
Uh,
I'll deal with this on
I'll
Monday.
deal with this fucker later.
I got, I got to. No, oh,
But
you
it was
said
funny. I mean, it was funny above all things. Like it's easy for a lot of people to get butthurt about this kind of stuff. It's like, nah, man, it's all a good time. Fuck it. It's a good story. Did I ever tell you the story about how my Uber driver ran out of gas?
no.
It's like
Okay,
this. It's
what?
like, bro, it's like this. It's like this. There are opportunities in life where shit gets thrown at you, and perhaps this is kind of a very like Russian thing to do because I kind of get, you get sent to the gulag. Well, you probably did something that deserved it. So, it's not like anybody in the gulag was innocent. You know what I mean? But anyway, so this is when I got back to Poland the second time. I got picked up at the airport. I'm going back from Miami to wherever I was living, somewhere in Boca. But I'm going there, and my driver's like, hey, I got to pull off and get some gasoline. I'm like, sure, whatever, it doesn't matter. This is after 12 hours on an airplane, by the way, direct from Gdansk, Poland, right to Miami. So I was fucking just dead to the universe, right? I hated everything. Um, we're pulling off the highway, we're into the intersection, and as he's approaching the gas station, just put, 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 poof, nothing. I think he stalled out right in the driveway, like the lip of the driveway. And I don't know where this guy was from. I think he was maybe Turkish or something. I feel like maybe Turkish or something, something vaguely Arabian, but not like Middle Eastern Arabian, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah,
And the
yeah.
guy is just so embarrassed. He's just so like, oh my God, fuck. I'm like, don't worry about it, man. Just hop out. Let's go. Let's push it. So I help him push his car into the freaking gas station, which is hilarious. We push it up the stall. He fuels it up. We get back in the car. We're pulling out, and he's just so apologetic. The guy is just he's embarrassed to hell. I'm like, man, I just flew 12 hours on a plane from goddamn Poland, and I just got to push my Uber driver into the gas station. You know how fucking funny that story is, dude? I'm the guy. I have a story about my Uber driver running out of gas.
That
If this is the worst thing that happens to me, I've had a great fucking day.
right. I mean, that's a good thing there, and you probably
Ah.
took it well.
Oh yeah, he was so relieved. He's like, "You're not mad?" I was like, "Nah, dude, legit. This is hilarious. Do you know
This
how
is
excited I
funny.
am to tell this story now? Oh my god!"
Yeah,
So 5 stars, gave him a big tip. It was the whole 9 yards. I didn't give a shit. It was funny,
right. I
but
mean, that's how
like,
you gotta
it's
take
just
life.
yeah, it's little thing. Yeah, exactly. It's little things like that where you have an opportunity. Like it is legitimately funny. You have to have a sense of humor. I just flew 12 hours. All I want to do is see the girl, see my girlfriend who's now my wife. I just want to get home and see her. Poland, I loved Poland. It was great. But man, when the sun goes down at fucking 3 o'clock and you get 20 minutes of sun over a 3-week period, send me back to fucking Florida. Get me the hell out of here. You know what I mean? I loved Poland, but holy balls. So after all that, and then just ran out of gas in your Uber. Fuck it,
You
that's
just
funny.
have
I
like
don't
a
even give a shit.
absurdist moment. You
Yeah,
just
exactly. Yeah, that's exactly it. That absurdist. Just this is
you
great.
you just can't move, sitting there and like, oh man, whatever. I'm gonna
I ain't
laugh.
even
But
mad. Fuck it. I ain't even mad.
I mean,
Just
that's the way to handle life, man. You had just like
it is.
there's things that like are legitimately like you should be upset about, but then there's other things
Yeah.
where it's like, shit happens. Like
Yeah.
that's how I handled that like little car accident thing. It was like,
Yeah.
well, it's funny that, I got hit
Yeah.
by the same identical car and color and make, and it's like, cool, just shit happens, like we all make
Yep.
mistakes. It's not a horrible deal.
Move on in life. Move on in life. That is an underrated thing, especially these days. I mean, there's going to be so much bullshit that's going to be going on, and so much crap that's just gonna. You're gonna have to be able to make fun of it. You're gonna have to be able to laugh. If you don't, you're gonna just fucking snap.
Right.
Just
Exactly. You got to
go
laugh on the way to
postal.
the gulag, man. You got to at least shit post your way there. Um,
Absolutely. And besides, look, if when we end up in the gulag, like I'm not innocent, so I'm clearly being punished for something. So it's fine. It's fine. I ended up in the gulag. I'm surprised it took them this long to get me. So
yeah,
anyway,
that's
so what
funny.
else?
Copernican just messaged me. He said,
Oh
"Hey,"
yeah,
because we were talking about like having him back on and probably get him back towards the end of the month. So
that'd be fun.
we'll have more stuff. I gotta read all the the heavy stuff he's into.
Yeah, that
So
guy's been busy. That guy's been busy.
he's been writing up a storm, man.
Yeah.
Um,
Hey, I got another book coming in. I'm kind of excited. I think it's sitting on my front stoop right now.
it's gonna get
Um,
porch pirated.
I don't think so. I live in a small enough town where people don't porch pirate, and if they do,
Same.
they're going to be stealing a book called Political Realism by Antoine Dress. I guess he's a French.
One
I
of the
think he's
new right
French.
guys.
Yeah, I saw it on Arctos, and I was reading the um the ideas. He talked about Machiavelli, Thomas Hobbes, and Carl Schmitt, and I was like, "Fuck it, this sounds kind of interesting." I'm looking for over the summer. I starting last year, I do sabbaticals now, and last summer I did some writing and I did some reading, and it's probably gonna be the sabbatical is probably gonna be if I end up teaching that new class next year, well, not new class, but new to me, doing government. it's Florida standard government, so it's going to be talking a lot about, just how the political system in the United States works, or more accurately, is supposed to work. And reading stuff like this, I think will just really put me in a good mindset to do government. Just because I'll have interesting things to challenge the kids with, and interesting things to, again, this is how government is supposed to work, and that's what I'm going to be teaching you about. But at the same token, we're absolutely going to talk about how things work in real life,
Right.
So political realism. Yeah, sure. Let's check out, see what this guy has to say.
Well,
And I
that's
guess it,
interesting.
reads
And
pretty well. Yeah, I mean, I'll let you know what I think, but like when I was looking through it, it was like, yeah, let's give it a look. This seems fun.
yeah, I mean, a lot of the Arctos Press stuff is really great. A lot of it is like, um, it's very European
Yeah.
in nature, but it's very interesting to take into different perspective on right wing stuff. And um, just kind of ideas from outside the
Yeah,
mainstream
yeah.
are, are very interesting.
I like the idea of looking at the European stuff, I think, even though I can kind of get a little butthurt when it comes to Europeans. I'm just like, fuck off. But I mean, there's a lot of interesting stuff there. I mean, they've been doing this for a while. You know what I mean? So when we think about, you mentioned earlier in the podcast, you mentioned having a purely American kind of perspective. Well, we might as well learn and see what all the others have done, because I think one of the biggest mistakes we make as Americans is forgetting just how young we still are as a country
Right,
and a people. And like, you know, family's only been here 400 years. If you're Hispanic, maybe 450, 500, depending on, whether you're related to the earliest guys or not.
right.
But we've got to pause and think about that. That's going to have a big impact on us, especially when you look at how large it is and how geographically this side of the world doesn't seem to geographically, what's the word I'm looking for? It's not geographically conducive to empire or to centralized authority, I don't think.
No,
I could be wrong about that, but
and I mean, like we're looking at that. There's very distinct local culture in the United States.
yeah. Oh, there
While
is.
we are under the general larger, neoliberal kind of
American
worldview,
consumer culture, or
yeah,
whatever you want to call
neoliberal
it.
consumerism, which is no different than
Yeah.
Europe is also under the same kind of culture, if you travel there.
Yeah.
And so is most parts of the first world Asia and that kind of stuff. Um, like I
First
said,
world neoliberal consumer culture. Is that what we'll call it?
right,
We'll try to get the biggest phrase we possibly can to sound cool and educated.
right. There's probably somebody that has a really good phrase for it. Basically like our our
Yeah.
our, our soy slop culture. But there is local culture, and that's the culture that really matters. And if you live in California, it's very different. And there's a kind of a unique Southern California culture. There's a unique Northern California culture. There's definitely a kind of a Southwest Arizona, Nevada kind of culture, and it's very different. Texas is very much its own thing, and Texas itself has multi microcultures based on where in Texas. There's the Northwest has its own kind of vibe. The sad part is that a lot of it is being subsumed by the greater kind of cultural behemoth of consumerism and stuff. But remember, buying Nikes and wearing jerseys of your favorite like corporate team is not culture. Okay, that's not culture. Going to a barbecue with your friends and doing stuff around your town, that's culture. Okay, that's
Yeah.
what matters. Uh,
Yep.
you're don't become atomized, embrace the local stuff. Okay, that's what matters. Right? That's how you're really going to that's what matters spiritually, and really like that's more important than some kind of a greater overall type of thing. You switched your whatever it's called, your what do you call it, your profile pic or whatever the hell, right?
Yes. Hmm.
um you switched it to Gandalf, right? Which kind of leads into
Yes.
our next topic. You were mentioning the
Oh no, here we go.
well, okay, so I briefly saw that post, right?
Right.
And then I cannot find it. I was looking for it all day today, so like it disappeared. So you want to fill us in on what the post was about?
Yeah, let me try. So it was uh, this is one of these Substack discourse conversations, you could
Right.
say. where a guy was commenting on something he saw elsewhere, talking about the relative coolness of J.R.R. Tolkien and C.S. Lewis compared to, say, certain figures out there who men may or may not consider idols or consider role models, that being Andrew Tate. And the primary note that I saw that drew me into this was talking about how, and I'm not necessarily going to mention the person himself because I don't want to make it about him, just about the idea. But the idea that he brought up was his issue, and several other people were taking issue with the fact that people were calling C.S. Lewis and J.R.R. Tolkien cool. But the issue I took with it was what I perceived to be the idea that there is anything redeemable about Andrew Tate whatsoever.
Right.
And I saw some guys who, they present themselves as Catholic men, as traditional Catholic men. And they're talking about, or there was discussion about, in the post itself about, Tate has prowess and Tate has, his physicality, and about how these are virtues. And I couldn't help but just go, yeah, but the guy's a fucking retard. So I don't give a shit what kind of virtues he's co-opted, because at the end of the day, whatever, your purpose, is it your purpose what makes those things virtues?
Right.
I mean, physical prowess in the service of just getting your dick wet and buying a Lambo, that's not virtue. That's the corruption of virtue. That's demonic. That's screw tape or Sauron, the kinds of things that J.R.R. Tolkien and C.S. Lewis wrote about. And in my mind, those guys as writers, I mean, yes, of course, they are scholars, especially what they're known for. They're known for scholarly work. They're known for writing fiction. They're known for writing about theology and all kinds of crazy stuff. But how could you not say that those two guys are, and this is what it seemed to be to me, how could you not say that those two guys are excellent archetypes for any person who's trying to be a good man, regardless of what your interests are or regardless of where your strengths or weaknesses are? You should know about those two guys, period. That's it. And you
Right.
should seek to understand what made them what they are and why they lived the lives they did and why they wrote what they wrote and why they did what they did, because they're demonstrating virtues not in the service of one's own ego, but in service of something better. Going back to when we talked to Librarian of Solano all those ages ago,
Right.
the difference is we want something bigger, we want something better. We don't want what we want. We want what's best.
Right.
So
Well,
that's
yeah.
my perspective on the whole question. I mean, guys, virtues are good, and we should encourage people to act virtuously. But it's what are you pointing it at? That's what matters. If you're pointing it at the wrong things, well, you're wasting those virtues.
Right. I mean, ultimately, Andrew Tate is a consumerist pimp, and that's all he is, right? You know,
That's
and
even being kind.
that's even being kind. And it is sad that we have, young men, disenfranchised young men. I mean, I wrote the essay very lambasting um, mainstream kind of churches and stuff for failing to really give an option to young men. I think last
Well,
week,
yeah.
right? And unfortunately, because of that, you have people turn into, idiocy like, Andrew Tate and stuff. But Andrew Tate, no matter like what you think of him or whatever, the truth is he is very third world coded, man. Okay. He is, he spent some time in Romania and that's where he got arrested and all that stuff, right? Um, in Romania, like, so one thing that I was always kind of taught, growing up, right, is that you don't flaunt wealth, right?
No,
You don't flaunt wealth.
no.
Flaunting wealth is what gypsies do, okay? And they in Romania they used rate, you're like, oh, you're acting like a racial slur. The word for gypsy in Romania is tsigan, because gypsies are known for flaunting, being ostentatious, like wearing gold and having gold teeth and just being, real tacky, very much like rapper culture in the United States,
Right.
that's like that's tacky, right? You don't flaunt your wealth. That's trash, right? And Andrew Tate's idea of masculinity is basically it's rapper masculinity, and we all know that all the rappers are gay homosexuals that blow each other's cousins at 6 years old or whatever,
Right.
and it's it's tacky and corny, right? So when you say the word cool, right, it's the word cool itself is kind of a corny, outdated terminology,
Well,
right?
sure.
I guess the modern term would be like bussin' or something like that,
Based. I don't know.
or sigma or something, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
um, when you talk about that, right? Cool in a like aspirational, like, oh, I would hang out with that guy. You know, I wouldn't think that dude is cool when I was like a teenager. You know what I mean? Right? Like, why do you want to like? Why do you want to hang out with a pornographer? Like a pimp. Like that's not cool. Like it's tacky, right? Like the whole thing with the name brand. Maybe because I grew up like being into like a punk rock kind of aesthetic and that type of thing. I found the whole display of wealth to be like exceptionally tacky. Maybe I've really embraced the kind of Anglo mentality of like low key. Like low key wealth. Like I like the idea of basically the vibes of that movie, The Talented Mr. Ripley.
Yeah.
Like real wealth is being able to like live in a cabana on the beach in the Mediterranean, and owning a catamaran and sipping champagne, midday or wearing a polo shirt like in New England. That's how wealth should present itself. Like I can go afford to like just play golf all day or something like that.
Yeah. I have fuck
Wearing
off money.
yeah, wearing chains and like, going to clubs, it's like it's so corny. Like I remember when I used to go to clubs when I was younger and like only the tackiest, corniest people would go into like, the VIP area. It's like, dude, you're paying like 6 times the price for like the same shitty drink you get at the bar. You know what I mean? Like you're such a clown, dude. You know what I mean? And the thing is though, if you're paying for what these people don't like, I'm sure Andrew Tate knows this because he's not obviously not that retarded because he's made tons of money, right? And he's making money selling these ideas to kids, right? Um, if you're paying to get into the VIP room, you're not a VIP. All
Right.
right. Just keep that in mind, okay? If you're paying to get stuff, you're not really important, okay? Because really important wealthy people don't pay for shit. All right. Like, do you think movie stars pay for all the clothes that they wear to awards and stuff? No.
No.
They don't
They're
pay for any
gifted
of this
that
stuff.
stuff. They're
They don't
paid to
pay
do
for
that
their
stuff.
cars. They don't pay for anything. They get
Yeah.
that stuff as gifts because,
You don't pay, you get paid.
right, exactly, right?
That's why you're rich.
Like, when a movie star or somebody that, a famous person or somebody that's got like, money and stuff, or anybody, when they go into a place, right? They go and they are invited there and they're let into those places for free because them being there attracts fucking goobs that will pay retarded money for a bottle of champagne that they can buy at the store. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
you're a clown if you pay for that kind of stuff, right? You're also a clown if you spend thousands of dollars on name brand stuff just to flash it. You're a tacky dork, right?
Yeah.
Because you're just paying so you can advertise somebody's brand, so other goobs like you will pay that much money, right? It's just an overall tackiness, right? And rich people, like really wealthy people, they pay money to go to private clubs you've never heard of. All right.
Right.
And they're not putting it on YouTube or their podcast or something like that, right? Because they don't want your poor ass even knowing about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I
Right?
do. I do.
It's
I found the original post and I'm just gonna quote the original thing, the original thought, and then I want to kind of direct us at something different. But young men should adopt Lewis and Tolkien as masculine role models, scholars, war heroes, feasting on the nectar of ancient poetry in rain-drenched pubs, and both a million times cooler than Andrew Tate. I think the thing is, if you want to reach young men who are drawn to the thuggish and the less civilizational, you have to give them an alternative. You can't just say Andrew Tate is a pimp
Right.
and then that's it. That's not enough. For these guys, oh, he's a pimp. That actually sounds kind of cool. You've got to give them something better. And I think a huge problem in our culture is that there isn't anything better. There just isn't.
Right.
That like a lot of these cultural problems and a lot of these issues, we do not fully understand just how fucked we are right now, just how badly things have degenerated and how badly things have decayed. So anyway, putting that aside, we're not going to give up because we don't give up because fuck that, right? So even if we are degenerated reprobates, we're still going to stand up and give it a shot, right? So what is it that we can do with this? What is it that we can point towards? And I definitely want to hear what you think first, but in my mind, I think this is where like the Imperial project and the Imperial ideas that I've been thinking about myself come into play. Not that we're going to establish an American empire. No, 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 no. But when I stop and I think about the idea that, some of the young fellows, I joke with them, Hail Caesar or, Hail Augustus, or I live to serve the empire. I'm not communicating to them that I literally do any of that. I'm simply trying to communicate to them in a appealing way that I serve an ideal that is higher than myself. And I dare say that the ideal I serve is not ideology, it's not some belief, it's not, no, it is an eternal truth, is in an eternal, God ordained way that the world has been constructed, that the world is meant to work. And when you appeal to something like that, and you try to demonstrate that to the fellows in your life, I feel like that's going to be a lot more powerful than simply pointing them to go say, go read Tolkien, go read Lewis. Tate is a pimp and he sucks. I mean, we're going to have to do it ourselves. We can't just sell a course on anywhere about anything and expect that to do the work for us. What do you think?
No, you're absolutely right. And I think ultimately what one has to do, right, is that we have to, I'm gonna bounce it back to, to going to church, right?
Yeah.
And this past Sunday during liturgy, uh, if you're familiar with Orthodox liturgy, in the middle of liturgy, the priest gives like a little homily, like he stops and he does the little, which would be more, this part of the liturgy is would be familiar to like a Protestant going to church. It's the part where he kind of talks about the parts of the Bible that were read during the service, and kind of presents it to modern life type of thing, and talks about it, right? And this Sunday he was talking about how, I'm going to paraphrase it really bad, and he was quoting an Orthodox thinker and another priest and theologian, and he talked about statues, right? And he said, how can people, you know, when you are filled with like, goodness and Christ, and you're filled with the joy of Christianity, and just all the good stuff, right? Nobody will mistake you for a statue, right? When you can have the most, lifelike realist, photorealist art, or the most realistic statues. Nobody will able to, nobody can tell that everybody can tell that they're statues, right? There's a lack of life in it, like a mannequin will give you that like uncanny valley feeling for a reason, right? But when you're filled with like the joy of religion and Christ and everything, right? You're obviously, nobody's ever going to mistake you for a statue, right? It's kind of like a simplistic way, but that's kind of the idea, right? And it made me
Yeah.
think that like really we start on a local level, right? The key is it's our job to be good people, and to be good people in the real sense of the term, right? Not just successfully cool people, but we need to show young people that there's strong men in the world, and men that have families and take care of their children and handle the shit and can be violent when they have to, but aren't pimps and aren't, you know, their personality is not flashing gold chains or, you know, Cristal champagne or whatever the hell, you know? Um,
Yeah.
and
I think we also have to make a very dark, deep line between being nice and being kind.
oh, absolutely.
Good men are not nice,
No, absolutely
ever,
not. Right.
ever. Nice, fuck yourself, right?
Right.
But
Like,
to be kind, that's the real thing. Where, I think about like my debate club, and I had some new kids come yesterday to debate club, and they're younger, they're freshmen. And the conversation we had, whoa. And afterwards they're talking to me, they're like, we were lost. Like, you guys really, you didn't hold back. I'm like, nope. Debate club, I don't give a shit how much you know. I don't give a shit how much you think you know. I don't care what you think the tone should be or what anything. We're going to have the discussion. And if you don't know something, that's a you problem. That's not a me problem.
right.
Now, I will help you figure it out. I will help you find it, and I will help you learn how to do it yourself. And you can kind of see the shift in their attitude. They're like, okay, all right, like, I'm gonna kick your ass so that way now you can kick other people's asses. And is that nice? No.
No.
Is it kind? Yeah, actually it kind of is, because it's empowering them to do it.
Right.
You see what I mean?
Exactly. You have to you have to strive to lead a life that other people look at you and say, I want that life too. You know, the young people
Yeah,
say,
how
you
can I
know,
be like him?
I want, you know, the wife and the kids and, you know, or even I want, you know, I feel good being around this person, you know, like you know, when you walk into the room, you know, you inspire people want to have a conversation with you,
Yeah.
you know, and you're there for people and you do that, you know, we've all met these people, right? I probably fall far short of this in my real life, right? But I've met this person. And we were actually at work talking about a former coworker, an older gentleman. He left. He retired. But this guy was just amazing, right? He was so knowledgeable about everything, you know, to do with our work. And when he walked in the room, everybody from the newest person to the oldest person, like, was just like, wow, he's so great. You know, this guy, like, and he's kind and, you know, but he also drank like a fish when we went to the, you know, our work
Yeah.
events, and he took care of everybody. He was always there when somebody needed something. His wife used to come to our work and bring us like baked goods all the time. It was just like, you know, you look at him and his wife and you're like, God, I wish I want to be their kid. You know what I mean? Like, I
Yeah,
wish I was
right.
their son, right? Um, and you know, he did have adult sons, and his sons were like super successful and also very much like him. And I was like, okay, I see how it gets built. Too many people in our parents' generation and some of us in our own generation are really just miserable fucks, you know? And of course, you know, when you come home and your mom and dad are divorced and there's just misery and they hate each other, or like your dad is just like completely miserable, constantly complaining, constantly being negative, just complaining about the world, and just you know, it's a misery parade constantly. And you know, of course you want to be Andrew Tate, man. You know what I mean? Like that, it just makes more sense because at least that's fun superficially, you know. But there's nothing there. It's a candy bar, you know, it's not a meal. It's an empty kind of world. And that's hard to, you know, that's hard to illustrate that, right? Like, would I want all the money and fame or, you know, or the girls or whatever that somebody like Tate has? I mean, I'm sure it'd be nice for like a day, but I would take being Tolkien any day. You know, I would take being married for, you know, my entire life and having loving family and having a career that's going, you know, that has outlasted his life, and it'll probably, you know, his work will probably last for a few more hundred years until we forget about it, you know. And if we ever do, right?
Right.
And that right there is like manna, you know. It's like there's something there. It's not a statue, it's not a mannequin, it's a person, right? People like Andrew Tate, they're just mannequins, right? They're just mannequins with bling on them, you know. There's nothing there beneath the surface, right? And like the philosophy is just bitterness, get mine kind of attitude, you know. And I
Yeah.
knew I had an acquaintance when I here, like, actually, right, that I met, and he had a family and stuff, and he was really big into the Andrew Tate thing, and he was
Yeah.
kind of a miserable person, right? And interestingly enough, he converted to Islam and stuff, and it was all about achieving and blah blah blah, and it's just he wasn't a very pleasant person to be around. And it's funny because I'm an unpleasant person to be around because I'm a hateful hater, but I pray that I can contain my bitterness at the world sometimes because I don't want to be known as that. I don't want to be a bitter person angry about the injustices of the world constantly because I'd rather just
Yeah,
focus on the good stuff.
I think it's key. I think it's key that if you are bitter and angry at the world, I think to a certain extent you should be because that's simply honest. And I think if you're not, you're probably retarded.
Right.
But I think what we're getting at is keeping that sense of humor about it though. Like, yeah, the world's fucked up, but what are you gonna do about it, right? It's fine. It'll be all right. You
Right.
laugh at it. You laugh at it. You laugh at the bitterness. Because I think part of that too is like I was having a discussion today with a student, and I don't like giving advice when it comes to relationships because I'm not particularly good at that, right? So I'm not the guy like when it comes to how to, you know, hopefully this relationship of mine works out real well and all that kind of stuff, and I think it's going to be fine. I think it's going to be great. But my God, did I learn the fucking hard way? So when I give you my mistakes and I talk to somebody about all of the ways to not do it, it's being humble enough to say, learn from my errors, learn from my mistakes. I did things this way, and this is now the wages that I'm reaping because of it. I don't regret any of that. I mean, it is what it is, and I am what I am, and it's going to be fine. But perhaps that's part of the reason why I'm allowed to go through those things is because then I can help people navigate it better. I don't know, but it's still keeping that sense of humor because at the end of the day, you know that dude rose from the dead and it's all good. So don't worry about it.
Right. Like we know the world sucks, man. It's always sucked,
Yeah,
unfortunately. You know what I mean?
that's a feature, not a bug, guys.
Right.
That's normal. That's
Yeah,
fucking normal.
it's like
It's
I
fine.
could I could been a galley slave in the Mediterranean, or I don't know, died of the Black Plague or something, or
Yeah,
there's just so much more misery. I could have been born in India for all I know. Like there's all kinds of more horrible things that like I can
yeah.
imagine. Um, but
We
you
could be
just got
Canadian.
I could
No,
be
I'm just kidding. I'm
Canadian,
kidding. I'm
geez,
kidding. I'm
right?
kidding.
God, like, but ultimately, it's like you wake up in the morning and the sun's shining and life is beautiful, and there's little moments, and you're like, and do not like, and then how do we like, that's the question that Dave Green was asking in that conversation with Rod Dreher and all this stuff. It's like, how do we, you know, what is the alternative to like the Tates and stuff, right? Look, we're not going to win, dude. The reality is that most people on the planet are just simple people. They're not thinkers.
Yeah,
They're just, they're not aristocrats of the soul to go all Evala on people. And unfortunately, what we have to do is reject the lower ideas, right? We live in a culture that's inverted, where it used to be that like aristocratic ideas used to filter down to the populace, but now it's the opposite, where like low class kind of moronic stuff filters up, and it's the upper classes have adopted like silliness and like just trashiness, and
yeah,
we have to reject that. We have to basically stand by values and culture and that type of thing, right? And if you lead a good life, people will follow you. You just kind of lead by example. I do
yeah. I
think
think you're
that,
right. It
yeah,
reminds me of a conversation. Sorry, it reminds me of a conversation I had with a student. There's a new guy in debate club, and he is a young revolutionary who wants to save the world. So he's not too unlike myself years and years and years ago. But I go through life, and his debate coach is one of the most reactionary people on the entire campus. So this should be fun. But we talked, we had a conversation. It was civil, it was enjoyable. And we both came around to the notion that we both feel a deep obligation to other people to serve them in that noble way. And I think that's partially what you're talking about is we just have to find those people and
right,
make sure that they get we have to find the aristocratic. We have to find the aristocratic motherfuckers out there and help them get connected with the things that are going to increase and encourage and empower their nobility.
Right. Well, and then you look at we can go back to a few podcasts ago when I was talking about Lorenzo de Medici, right?
Oh,
Right.
yes.
Where,
The wizards.
exactly, where
Yeah.
ultimately, like if I had the money Tate has, I mean, I don't even know how much money he has, right? If I had the money he has, I don't know. Okay, I will make a note for people.
The money he at least pretends
I
to
don't know
have.
anything about the guy. Okay, I know like
Yeah, right. Whatever.
brief, stuff. Um, ultimately, if I had that money, right, I don't know, I'd be giving out scholarships to like guys that I think, I would try to build something with it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like build something, right? I wouldn't be flaunting Lamborghinis and that kind of shit because that shit's
Yeah.
tacky and like meaningless, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Right. I would be, I don't know, making a beautiful, like, I don't know, park in my neighborhood that has
I'd
my name
be
on it or something like that that people can enjoy. Or I don't know, I would form a society, of, young men that can, of mentorship and that kind of stuff. I don't know. There's just so many freaking things I would do with that money that's not just retarded, like,
yeah. One
blinging
thing that comes
around.
yeah, one thing that comes to mind for me is the local community theater gets a goddamn blank check.
Right.
Let's
Right.
fucking go, guys. What do you want to do?
Right.
I don't even care.
I would buy everybody's book on
Wrote
Substack.
that
I
check.
would subscribe to everybody on Substack. Okay, that's what I
Yes,
would do.
I would get a lot more paid subscriptions on Substack. That's
Yeah,
true.
everybody that
But that's the Medici. That's the Medici.
right. I would be like, hey man, I'm gonna, you're my favorite writer. Here, Lisa, I really enjoy your science fiction and fantasy stuff. Here's 100 grand. Write me a freaking book. Take a year, to do it, right?
Yeah,
And
exactly.
or that kind of stuff. Like I don't
Man,
know.
how cool would that be? Hey, guys, get a subscription, get a paid subscription to the Black Ibis podcast, so Alex and I can become the next Domenicis.
Right. I mean, look, we're trying. Like, I feel like I actually subscribe to more people than like I actually we get subscriptions. So I probably where I'm a net negative on this thing. But it's ultimately like I don't know. That's how I am. There's only so much in the world that I need, like material wise, before
Right.
like it
Yeah.
just
No.
like it becomes gross. And I'm not. This
Uh,
is not out of some like communist like material. It's really out of like a spiritual anti-materialism. It's like, what do you need? All I need is a cave, man. I just want to go out and live in a cave somewhere. Like who needs? I don't know. It's just tacky, man. And ultimately, like we do need like cultures and groups and stuff, but I think that's on a local level. Like you just need to get involved. Like how you're getting involved in your community theater, right? You need to be
yeah.
present. I think that's the key. You need to be present, right? Because you can't just check out. You have to be there and you have to be, if you feel like, the world is way too feminized or whatever, political or whatever, well, you know what? Be present, okay? Be there and be the lighthouse that is a beacon for people that also feel like you so they can come to you and so you can get together, and then from there you can build, like you look at the history of Christianity, for example, it was small, people meeting in basements and catacombs and that kind of stuff, right? And it grew to be the world spanning religion it is now, right? It starts small and it starts by showing up, right? That's what you have to do. You have to show up and you will change the way people think by being there and being an example, right? That's the number one thing all of us can do, right? We don't need money, we don't need anything, we just need to be there. And we need to take care of ourselves individually by reading, writing, being in, educating ourselves because we're not going to get educated because we're past that age, and our education was very lacking because of boomerism, right? So we need to educate ourselves and become like the scions of our own worldview. You have to be your own worldview first, and then people will follow. Otherwise, it's just you're just posting online and nobody gives a shit. Ultimately,
Yeah.
it's all
Yeah.
it
You
was.
can't just post online. I think a lot of it is the drive to become the next celebrity culture. Like we have our idols and they're all trash thug celebrities and they're all on the internet sprigging out like idiots. So therefore, the vast majority of us are going to do what they do and sprig out like idiots. And yeah, you're just posting online. You're just posting shit online. Online is very useful.
So it is. I'm not even
There's a
that.
lot that we can learn from it, but you're not going to get anything done in the real world. At least most of us are not going to get much done in the real world by trying to become the next big guy online because you're pissing in the wind. Use it to better yourself. Use it to become exposed to ideas that maybe you would never become exposed to, if only so that way you can then turn them and make use of them in your own hometown. You got to you got to be the guy that's going out to all the different you got to be the guy going out to all the different towns, buying all the different kinds of seeds that are out there to then bring them back and see what takes root and see what becomes plentiful in your
Right.
actual world.
Right. Because that's what matters first. If your own house is not in order, you're not going to change the world, man. Okay?
Right.
It's just it starts with
Yes.
your
That
own
was a very
kids,
difficult lesson. That was a very difficult lesson for me to learn.
right?
100%.
It starts with your wife, it starts with your kids, it starts with that. And like we're gonna get criticized by like the usual, it sounds a lot like pulling yourself up by your bootstraps. Well, you know what? Right? It's not that. It's not some uh Republican kind of cut kind of mentality. I know the world sucks. I know it's a freaking mess out there for young guys, right? I know that
Yeah.
dating's a disaster. I know that, the culture and the laws and everything is just aimed at you and hates you and doesn't like you. And we know if you're a certain kind of guy of a certain disposition and a certain, mindset, that you are at the bottom of the totem pole when it comes to everything, I know that, right? But you know what? Fuck it, man. That's just how it is. You can't change it by bitching about it online, What you can change it is just by being better. That's really the only thing you can do, man. That's the only thing you can do. You can be better and you can just live because throughout history, many people have lived under horrible adversity and have made it through. And you know what? That's the best you can do. The only person you can, the only person you can really take care of is yourself, like your own soul, right? And
Right.
if I die in utter poverty in some cave somewhere in the desert, well, you know what? At least I was real to myself, right? That's the question I'm going to ask to myself. Did I lead a good life?
Mm.
Not
Did you
was I
lie to
rich?
yourself
Right. Because
to borrow from your bro,
yeah, because man,
the big dosty?
right, because when you're on your deathbed, or you're forgetting life, you're forgetting like everything you're forgetting, like when you're decomposing while you're still alive, basically, because that's what happens to you, right? Nobody's gonna give a shit. You're not gonna give a shit about the crystal you drank, the VIP clubs you went to. None of that stuff matters, man. It's all just dust in the wind, dude. And
Yep.
all that matters is like, were you a decent person? Are you proud of your life? Like, did you touch somebody, even like in a small way, like helping your Uber driver push his car to the freaking gas station? No, I mean it's not. It's the truth, right?
Yeah, no, it is.
Because you could have chimped out and been a super Karen at that, and you'd have been justified, right? But that kind of stuff really matters a lot more, and I don't know, how do we get that? How do we get that across to young people? I don't know. I don't know. I really don't. I think the best way we our only real ability to is to try to live that ourselves and be the person where young guys go, you know what, Mr. Professor in my high school or whatever, he seems to have his stuff. There's joy in what he does. There's joy in his teaching, and it's like I want to be that, or I want to be into that as much as you know what I mean. You know what I'm saying, right? Like,
Yeah, I do.
and that's the best we can do, right? So like, we need to keep writing, keep reading, keep mentoring young people, and
Keep doing podcasts.
keep doing podcasts and being positive about it, and not shooting, not succumbing to bitterness and negativity, right? Because there's a big difference between uh, being righteously angry about something, right? Which, oh, look, listen, man, we've been righteously angry about a lot of things, right? Justifiably so. And just d dwelling in defeatism and bitterness, right? Because that shit consumes you. You turn into a goblin basically when that happens. A bitter, hateful person, and that's not good for you, man. You don't want to end up
Hey,
that.
definitely not. Hey, just as like a side note, because this relates to something that we talked about earlier, but I literally just got this email, and I feel like this is the kind of thing, remaining positive. We keep talking about the online space and whether or not it's useful, things of that nature, and like there is some use for it. But I just got a really nice email from Substack apologizing about the little issue that I had. And they
Oh,
are
that's
just
nice.
explaining that I'm writing to apologize for an oversight the team made last weekend that affected your account. As Substack continues to grow, we're encountering an increase in volume of spam and inauthentic user activity. So I basically got caught up in some of the things that they're trying to work on. They also have a really cool thing here at the bottom. We're actively reviewing how we balance report-based moderation with the need to protect the space for free expression, especially when that expression may be unpopular.
That's good.
Preventing this kind of mistake is a top priority. So, I mean, maybe they're just saying the right thing, maybe they're not, but they're bothering to say it. And I think it relates to kind of what you're talking about, trying to keep positive, trying to stay. You're not gonna get anywhere. You're not gonna get very far if you're just gonna fucking bitch about how everything's the Jews or the conspiracy theory or they're looking to it's the same. No, you gotta look. If you're in the gulag, maybe you got put there for a reason, you know?
Right.
Maybe God's
Right.
trying to share you, maybe God's trying to share something with you.
Right. No, you're
Besides, you're not
absolutely
innocent.
right.
No one's innocent. That's why the
Right.
gulag worked, because no one's really innocent.
Exactly.
But
All right,
anyway,
guys. I think we've been
that's kind
through.
of a fun little, yeah, that's kind of a weird little note to end on.
No, it is. It's a good note to end on, because
But yeah, I mean,
ultimately, like there is hope, right? And that's
yeah,
what hope and faith is about. I am, very thankful for all our listeners. You guys are
yeah,
amazing, and I legitimately love doing this, and I love like this podcast has actually become like the highlight of my week in a way. Like I look forward to it every week because I'm like, man, I can't wait to like have a cool conversation with people.
yeah.
And
I hope it introduces people to new ideas and new thoughts, and that it provides them with something. It provides them with something they can take home
right. And
that helps them.
I learn from it a lot, okay? From our
Yeah. Oh,
conversations,
no shit,
with the
dude.
two of us or with our guests specifically,
Yeah.
I, this is unscripted. I don't really have any notes. Like I have like bullet points that say Tolkien, cool, Savannah bananas, and then I have question mark, question mark. That's kind of what I wrote on my notebook 10 minutes before we started, okay? So, um, that, some of these ideas, I develop my ideas on the fly here, and we react to it in real life. So if you probably, eventually you can listen to episodes from a year ago and you can be like, oh, you contradict yourself. Well, yeah, because we grow, right? We change our ways. We approach things differently. Uh, Maybe one day you're gonna become right and you're gonna realize that Judy is better than Panem. But I mean, we all grow.
Never.
We're all
Waifu is best
wrong.
raifu. Raifu is best waifu.
I had to throw that in there because I got
Absolutely.
criticized because I forgot to mention Cyberpunk to Autumn Christian conversation because we were short on time, and there was a whole section. Autumn Christian actually worked on video games, right? She was a writer for
Oh,
video
no
games.
kidding.
And one of the games that she wrote for was State of Decay 2, which is one of my favorite video games. I think it's a fucking
Oh, that's
excellent
fun.
game. And she wrote some of the dialogue choices and NPCs on that game. So I really want to talk to her experience in the video game industry and that kind of stuff. And of course, I was going to mention Cyberpunk during that. I even circled it on my notes, and we just ran out of time. That was like an avenue we didn't really explore because I noticed that whenever we have women on the show, I always talk about horror literature, and I've noticed that I don't know what it is. Lisa would talk about horror. Everybody would talk about horror, so we just kind of went down the horror line again. Um, but yeah, so all right, guys, we've got to call it a night because
All right.
my official Wednesday Chick-fil-A, Jesus' Chicken, is on its way. I told you guys about our kind of podcast tradition. When I record on Wednesdays, it's because I like Wednesdays. because that's when my daughter has her dance class,
Is
and
that is that what you guys have at church in South Carolina? That it's Chick-fil-A fried chicken and Dr. Pepper? Is that how it works?
no, because I go to Orthodox church, and most of the people,
Oh,
well, actually,
they keep it real. They keep it real. All right.
yeah, I mean, um, but because there's a Chick-fil-A next to a dance studio, and I don't want to, make dinner after podcasting because it's too late, especially for my daughter because she has to go to bed for school. Um, they always get Chick-fil-A. And so I don't even like Chick-fil-A. I'm not gonna lie. It's not my favorite, okay? But it's just kind of there and they bring it. So now I've kind of started to enjoy this ritual. So we call it Chick-fil-A Wednesdays. You know what? It's something we do, and I think it's very important to do things specifically on like a pseudo ritualistic way with your family. It's fun to have like little
Yeah.
traditions, I think it's a very important, once again, about getting your house in order, right? It's very important that we have dinner together every day, right? Like we sit down for dinner, right? You're supposed to sit down for dinner. You should also sit down for lunch. One of the most obscene things in our culture is the fact that we eat lunch at our desks at work and stuff, right? I make it a point almost as much as I can. I get up and I go have lunch at a table away, not in a break room. I do it like outside under a tree. There's a table, because you should sit down with people for lunch, okay? Like you should sit down for a meal with people on the regular, okay? You
Yes.
shouldn't be in your fucking car or any of that stuff,
Correct.
right? Like sometimes we have to, but no, all right? You should absolutely be having dinner every night at a table with your wife, your girlfriend, your children, right? Because that is the critical, most important part of like family in a way. You know what I mean? It
Hey,
is
it worked when I was growing up. Worked when I was growing up. That's what it
right.
was. Every night, 6 o'clock, dinner table, bitches.
Right. And don't argue, My daughter doesn't argue about it. She's like, oh, Dad, gonna go play video games. I'm like, no, sit the down. We're gonna
We're
eat
having dinner,
together,
you little bastard.
you know? And I think that kind of stuff is important, right? Because it leads to an organized family experience. And you should do that with your friends. You should have dinner with your friends. You should have, you should host parties where you come and people eat dinner together or, cocktails or whatever the hell you like, You should do stuff like because that's how you do things, right? That's how you
Yeah.
and you should involve children, okay? Like
Yes.
one of the things that is the I think the one of the most important things that I like about the Orthodox Church is that there is no separate place for children, right? They are there the whole time, all ages, right? And they're not expected to stand still the whole time. They're allowed to walk around, and sometimes there's a baby crying or a toddler, like toddlering, And you know what? It's okay, right? All right, because children are the most important. They're the future, right? And if you lock them away somewhere else, or force them to be quiet or whatever, you 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 have them turn away from the community, right? Family is about family. Like I think the most absurd thing I've ever heard about is the trend of like having childrenless weddings or like no kids allowed at my wedding or whatever.
Yeah.
You've heard that before. How obscene is that? That righteous anger right there, right?
Yeah.
How dare you not have children? That is the point of you getting married, dude.
Yeah.
Like you, right? Like
Yeah.
you're supposed to have these children come to your wedding so they see the joy of and the sacredness of the marriage, right? It's not about throwing a freaking party, guys. It's about showing the community that you're married and showing, the little kids and the middle-aged kids and the teenagers, like, look, people love each other. They have beautiful weddings and they go on, you know what I mean? That's what's key. And when we separate that from, you know what I mean? And then we're shocked why people end up in Andrew Tate land,
Yeah.
you know? Anyways, I went on a side rant there, okay? Um, all right, listeners, thank you very much. I hope you guys have another wonderful week, and I hope you enjoyed this episode. We're gonna keep doing these solo episodes because I think they're fun, and they
Yeah.
maybe we'll get more questions. Maybe we'll put out the question.
Questions from the group. I like questions from
Yeah,
the group.
remind me ahead of time, to like put it out or you put it out or something because my brain is like rotted from work and family.
All
I
right.
just
We'll do
have so
it.
much
We'll do
stuff.
it.
Um, Next week, if everything works out, we have Mr. John Carter, right? He is going to grace us from wherever the hell in the world he is right now. And
his
uh,
his undisclosed location
yeah,
on
he's an
Mars.
international man of mystery, right? From
Do 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 do
right.
do do
So he's
do
going to
do
grace us
do.
with his presence, and we're going to probably have some great conversations. We might even, talk about Canada or something, right?
All
Boring,
right.
snow or whatever the hell they do out there, right?
Now we should talk about fucking weird ass sci-fi.
Yeah, probably talk about weird ass sci-fi. Let's be honest,
Just the
right?
fucking weirdest shit. I'm gonna have to take notes because I'm sure he's got recommendations out the
Yeah,
asshole.
yeah. I mean, well, maybe we'll talk about aliens or something.
Oh hell yeah,
That's actually we haven't
yeah.
talked about aliens yet.
No, we
Uh,
haven't. We talk about actually. Well, he just wrote that article about the second potential Earth
oh
that
yeah,
may or
yeah.
may not
That's
have been
that's
found.
interesting stuff. I had a dream.
Yeah,
I had a dream
that's the
about the
shit
movie.
right there.
I had a dream about the movie Interstellar the other night, which is weird. I don't really love that movie, but I had a dream about it. I don't know why.
Hmm,
Maybe I'm gonna go into space. I don't know.
yeah,
We
you're
should talk
destined
about
to die on a world far away from here.
yeah, we talk about Amazon,
We can only all if we could
the
all be so
Amazon
lucky.
flight, the blue
Oh, the
star.
Amazon quote unquote flight.
Yeah, it's stupid. Like nobody cares about
Yeah,
that.
you mean the Amazon parabolic arc?
We got and
Ugh,
the funny thing about that whole thing is that out of that entire crew, somehow Katy Perry was the least annoying one out of all of them.
incredible,
And that's an incredible
incredible.
thing. Um, but yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff, and then we got the brothers
Yeah,
Karen
man.
Karen coming on, and I got some other guests lined up. Maybe we get Copernican back on. Man, we got a lot of stuff, man. And then once again, like, hey, if you guys like know somebody that would be interesting subject, let me know. I do run this. Both Fisto and I are busy guys. We got our careers that we focus on in our families. Fisto is recently married. I've been married for many years, but I've got a lot of stuff to do. So, this is a hobby. This is an amateur, dilettante kind of podcast, right? So I definitely want you guys to give me the recommendations and stuff because I just can't spend my entire life reading Substacks all day, which I mean, I do at work, but I do have a life outside of this, so I really can't. There's people I miss. There's conversations I miss. So please let me know. Like let me know what you guys want us to talk about. Let me know who you want me to have on and who's interesting and stuff. And we always take recommendations. A lot of the people we've had on have been based on recommendations. And some of the best guests we've had on, which all of the guests are awesome, by the way. You guys were great, fantastic people.
Yeah.
Um, some of the best,
Oh yeah.
conversations we had have been people that I had no idea coming into the conversation. I don't know anything about this dude. You know what I mean, right? Like
Yeah.
I'm like, this is a recommendation, right? So I mean, I think you were one of those people. I don't know anything about this dude, just online. And then
Hey, this guy's pretty awesome. He should be my
yeah,
co-host. Fuck
yeah.
it.
So like ultimately it's a community effort that we're doing here, right? We're this the strange Shire Stack corner of
The Shire
Substack.
Stack.
And we are on Spotify, YouTube, Apple, and all that stuff. And you know what? We got 61,000 downloads in the last few months. Let's get that to 100,000. Okay.
All of the
Uh,
downloads, all of them.
let's
However
get
many there are, I want them all.
yeah, let's get these people right. And if you're really interested in our stuff, like I said, once I have more time, we're going to be start doing a lot of exclusive type episodes. I'm still working. I'm
Exclusive.
still working on my Black Ibis Film Club stuff, and I've got reviews for all the White Lotus seasons coming up, which I've been meaning to do. I want to get you to watch my favorite movie eventually, so we can talk about it. Okay,
Yes,
which is
absolutely.
The Great Beauty. It's a movie that you should watch, especially now that you're
Okay.
old.
Oh,
Um,
hey, we got to do the Total Recall episode.
we do got to do a Total Recall episode with Lisa. We got a lot of stuff. We got a goth music episode that we get Sudanna back on. So there's so much stuff that I'm just I have a wealth of ideas and a lack of time. Okay. All right.
Yep.
So for all you guys, thank you for listening. Please like, share, subscribe, throw us some money because we always need it because we are poor. And that way I can also buy myself a gold chain and go to Dubai. No, I'll never do that because I'm not a tool. But yeah, guys, have a good night.